have to start. So yes.
Well, the themes, if you will, that are recurring
Hmm.
are consistent all across the city.
Absolutely.
There have been different years where different things have been important to communities. I'm finding in my research
Hmm.
affordable housing, homelessness, public safety, crime.
Yes.
Uh, it's everywhere. That's
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I don't feel like a lot of people want
mhm.
to acknowledge.
And drugs.
And
That's the
drugs,
other
like
one.
it's in Edmonds too. I love where it
Hmm.
is. It's nice, it's quiet, it's peaceful, but
Hmm.
crime is everywhere. It doesn't, it's there's no segregation
Hmm.
when it comes to those issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For tonight, and I'm gonna have Jill come over here
Sure.
for City Club. What is a win for you tonight at the debate that starts at 7 o'clock? So
Hmm.
right now you're in the pre-debate. We're going to talk to hopefully some of the candidates,
Yes.
both of the candidates, maybe
Hmm.
the moderators, and get more information on how they plan to approach this. But
Yes.
for you, what is a win?
I will say a win for me is always when I see people or hear people leaving and say that they learned something new,
Okay.
or either they learned something new or they got better information.
Hmm.
If you walk in and it doesn't impact you at all, then that was not a win.
Okay.
So that's
We
the goal.
well we are not. At least
Mhm.
I'm not. I don't think you are
Yeah.
telling people who to vote
Oh,
for.
absolutely not.
Um,
It's just about making sure that you get accurate,
there
detailed
we go.
information from the sources. I don't like the telephone game. I don't like, well, he said I heard this other thing and this thing. And I'm dealing with something like that right now that another friend of mine is dealing with. And I was
Hmm.
just like, it sucks. So
Hmm.
we just want to make sure that you have, direct information from the sources and you go from there.
Be a more informed voter.
Formed and engaged.
Engaged.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
This ain't our last time doing
I
this.
know. I'll see you two more times. And great job on the District 2 debate. I watched it and we shared it out. So yeah,
Awesome.
good
Thank you.
job.
Thank you. Come on over here, Jill.
Okay, time for my boss.
All right, you are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, your host, Tony B. This is our debate number 2 in partnership with Seattle City Club District 3. We were at the Broadway Performances at Center or Hall?
Hall.
Hall. We're at the
Hmm.
Broadway Performance Hall, and the debate will be starting at 7 o'clock. This is the pre-debate, an opportunity to share information with you a little less formally, provide some more context under which things are taking place here. Jill, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having us.
All right.
This is fun.
The board president of Seattle City Club. What was your role or the board's role in putting this debate together? Because there are a lot of different ways that you can do debates. Uh, at the end of the day, for me, it's about the audience understanding more about the candidates, the platforms, who they are. We've had a couple national debates. I'm just saying, I haven't gotten a whole lot out of it.
Yeah.
But there are different ways that you can host debates. You can have candidate forums, which are a little bit different. Uh, what was the thought process going into this about how you wanted to approach moderators, if that was what it was going to be,
Mhm.
talking to candidates?
Well, we have a long history of doing these debates.
Mhm.
And I would say the format has really not changed all that much over the years and actually decades.
Mhm.
Um, Really, what we want is a place where there's room for that education of
Mhm.
voters, room for the candidates to share their viewpoints and what they would do to combat some of those problems you mentioned of crime, drug use, affordability, housing, all of these issues that are so important to voters in Seattle. And we just really wanted it to be a format where we have local journalists asking questions that we know matter to our residents, and then enough space where there's room to breathe. We're not looking for fireworks. We're looking for greater dialogue, more understanding of their positions and what they would do if they were actually elected.
Hmm. Now, from my perspective, I'm thinking that with each of these districts, again, we're talking about the big issues that are impacting everybody.
Mhm.
But then within each district, there are also hyper-focused local critical issues. How do you determine which of those issues you're going to bring forward? Do you do that? Is it something that the moderators do? As City Club, do you say, hey, we specifically have these District 3, these District 4, these District 5 things that we've done our due diligence for? How does that all work?
Well, we decided Alicia, as our leader, helped lead us in this direction of doing the debates where there would absolutely be some kind of turnover. So it's open seats, and then ones where I might be getting this wrong. So fact check me on this. But but we did want to do races that were competitive and where we knew it would be a real race. So now, as far as how the editorial process works, we have great respect for the journalists we work with. We're
Okay.
working with great journalists who have their questions that they're bringing from their experience out reporting in the field and talking to voters in their own districts. And
So for the most part, the
Mhm.
moderators bring it. Their questions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain, I think the issues that we've mentioned already are ones where we know those are going to come up in some way, probably in every debate.
Yes.
But we really do we aim to choose a very diverse range of journalists from different mediums, different backgrounds, who will be able to provide some thoughtful questions in the debate.
And for City Club, what did you see as your overarching role in this engagement? Now, I'm saying this is cool because we've got a bunch of different folks involved in this process that are working together as media organizations, again, to help you, from my perspective, become more informed voters. What was the role that you saw City Club playing in this engagement and partnership?
It's exactly that. It's the role of convener. So bringing everybody together, different journalists. It's so great having you here. It's wonderful Alicia works with all these different local media organizations in town. And it's really great to bring everybody together and then get these candidates to come on stage and sit with us for at least an hour, answering our questions, answering voter questions. It's incredibly important. So we're very happy to be playing that role of convener and getting everyone together in this important election.
All right. So you know how I get down. If you don't, I just have open, honest, frank conversation.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna get in your Kool-Aid a little bit. Where are you from?
I actually grew up here. I grew up on Mercer Island.
Okay.
We're at Seattle Central. I did 2 years here at Seattle Central.
All
Got my
right.
AA here.
Shout out to
So I
Seattle
actually,
Central.
yeah, I took a music history class in this building.
Shout
So
out
it's
to
really
music at
fun.
Seattle Central.
It's fun to be walking around here again. So it's great.
Okay. Music, is that a passion, or is it a
Mhm.
lifelong? Is it how does music work in your world?
So my mom was a classical pianist,
Oh, good.
and I was trained in classical opera, believe it or not, and then did some educational tours with Seattle Opera. Thought that was what I was going to do for my profession, and then all of a sudden was like, you know what? I don't know if that's what I want to do. So I ended up taking 2 years off, traveled, worked in restaurants all over our region, probably, and then came here to Seattle Central, where I really found a love for international studies. I had some of the greatest teachers here that I've ever had, and they really inspired me to take that on. And then I got an international studies degree from UW.
And a Husky too.
Husky too. Also,
On
I'm a
top of
former
that.
radio reporter, believe it or not.
Oh, boy.
I was a journalist for, I ended up in journalism for almost 2 decades.
Give
So.
Jill a contract at Rainier Avenue Radio. It's me, Tony B. This is debate number 2 in the series of debates. Debate number 3 for us, but it is also District 2 debate. We are at the Broadway Performance Hall. I get ready to call it center or something like that. And we are live. The debate is going to start at 7 o'clock. This is part of the pre-debate show where we get to kind of be a little bit more informal, ask a few questions. We hope to get with the candidates in here, get the moderators in here, find out, what they got cooking and how they plan on serving it up. This is Jill Jackson. She is the board president. Now, I believe I heard Alicia say this club got started in the 80s. 8 women.
Yes, 8 women founders.
Started this club. So for someone who's from Mars, explain what that means. How that is meant to fit into our political ecosystem, financial, Yeah, City Club.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about it, when City Club was founded more than 40 years ago by those 8 women, the world was a different place for women. And I think, especially in positions of power and access to people in positions of power, and I think our founders really wanted to break down some of those barriers for many of us, to be a part of the civic dialogue and to be better educated and have that better access to people who really should be answering our questions too. And so it was founded in that spirit. But now we have this long record of, we don't just do these debates. These are a critical part of what we do, but year round, we're doing civic education. We're hosting Civic Cocktail, which is an event which, we'll have the mayor one week, and then we'll have the head of the Seattle Sports Commission the next week. And then we'll have, we have numerous array of guests talking about all kinds of issues important to our region. We go to different companies and do civic boot camps to help educate staffs on everything from immigration to our justice system. We just really year round are trying to help people understand how these things work. And that's a critical part of our mission.
You said something, Jill, that resonated with me, and I'm going to liberate it.
Please do.
Not steal it. Civic dialogue.
Yeah.
Because that can mean a bunch of different things.
It can. It's not what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Civic dialogue. Expand on what you meant when you said civic dialogue. Because I'm thinking it's something critical.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, what I think of when I think of civic dialogue is a conversation, and one where people are able to talk about issues that are critically important to us locally, or ideally nationally as well, but where we're able to talk about issues and have a greater understanding of both where the other person is coming from after the conversation, or at least be better educated about where they stand.
Yeah.
So it's really about both. It's education and engagement. And it's also ideally, and this is what we strive for at Seattle City Club, is a conversation that comes from a place of assuming good intent and comes from a place where we're able to have a respectful dialogue, and one that is enlightening, because it's just a really respectful conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us here at the pre-debate District 3 here at the Broadway Performance, I'm going to get this right, Hall.
Yes.
We'll be starting the actual debate at 7 o'clock. Jill, I believe I have a moderator.
Excellent.
Hannah. Hannah.
You should talk to Hannah.
Let's get this show on the road.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jill. Again, you're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, Tony B, and this is the pre-debate show where we have the opportunity to talk to the moderators. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk to the candidates and have a little more informal discussion about what you plan to see, what you plan to hear at the debate. And so why don't we go ahead, have a seat, come on, and join me. This is Hannah Kim.
Yes, Box 13, one of the moderators today.
One of the moderators.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Well, pleasure to meet you as well. Hannah, got a bunch of stuff I want to ask you.
Yes.
But first, I want to find out a little bit about yourself.
Right.
Where are you from?
Okay, so I'm originally from the East Coast before I moved to the Seattle area.
Where on the East Coast?
Well, right outside the DC area.
Outside of DC, outside of the whole, where all this hub of stuff happens.
All the mayhem over in Congress and all that. Northern Virginia is a community right outside of DC, and then I moved to Seattle, and I've been here since 11 years now at Box 13. So I've been here a long time.
Okay, now you are moderating a District 3 debate. Do you live in District 3?
I do not live in District 3.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't have that. However, we try to get a lot of questions from District 3 voters. I do believe that, the moderators, we're thinking about what is important to a lot of the District 3 people. There's different neighborhoods. One issue might be important to Capitol Hill residents versus, Madison, Valley or whatnot, or Montlake, and, all those differences matter to people that live in those neighborhoods. But I think the overall arching theme that you're going to hear in this debate, and hopefully people can tune in, is, we've got homelessness, we've got public safety, we've got transportation, we've got climate change, we've got all these issues that are important to a lot of people. So we're going to try to zone in on those.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this particular election. These major issues are pretty consistent. Each district, though, does have their own unique charms, concerns.
Sure.
Um, Tell me a little bit about how you plan to address some of those, since you don't live in the district, and you know what I mean, just have open, honest, frank conversation here. For someone who doesn't live in the district,
Right.
it might give you an additional perspective.
Yeah.
Tell me how you plan to make sure that what you ask is relevant to folks who live in District 3.
Well, I mean, I think that relevance is perspective. Everyone has different opinions about what's important to them, but we're just going to get down to the bottom of, livability, right? And all of us can come together on common themes, right? I just mentioned public safety. Capitol Hill is one of the areas that has the highest crime rate, believe it or not, even more than downtown Seattle right now. So we're talking about what can be done about that. What can be done about police accountability and issues of that sort. That's a widespread issue, not just for District 3, but for District 4, for District 5. So I think those topics are important. We've asked people to send in their questions, and one of the questions that they talked about was, how safe are the roads? Is it easy to get around? Are they going to expand sidewalks? How are you going to compete versus bikes, giving them space versus cars? And all those issues are important to people who live in Capitol Hill, the walkability aspect of things. So yeah, I think those are the issues that we're going to try to tackle as much as possible.
I'm going to push back a little bit here on relevance. We did a bit debate in District 2.
Right.
And I live in District 2.
Okay.
And so the opportunity to talk about things that impacted people specifically,
right,
was critical.
Yeah.
We had one young woman who said that she woke up at 4 a.m. to a burglar in her home.
Right.
And to her, public safety
Right.
was of the utmost importance.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Now, everybody's not having that happen to them, but when it happens to you, it becomes critical.
Absolutely.
So anyway, with District 3, and you don't have to answer this question if you want to. Kshama Sawant was District 3.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Kshama Sawant? Because now we have an incumbent that's not running,
Yeah.
and two new folks that are running.
I mean, she's definitely somebody who, made a name for herself. I will say that much, right? You knew where she stood on issues. Most long-serving council member in the district. So she definitely, or on the council, I should say. So she definitely has a name for herself and national recognition, right? She championed a lot of causes, and one name, I mean, you either love or you either hated her, right? It's, she was a controversial figure one way or the other. However, again, the two candidates that we're going to talk to, Joy Hollingsworth and Alex Hudson, I want to know about them. I want to know, one of the questions will be, how are they, might be different, maybe the same as Kshama Sawant. We don't know, because these are new faces.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that a lot of voters don't know what they're about. So I'm hoping that this debate tonight will open up kind of that dialogue of like, how are you going to lead District 3 similarly to Kshama Sawant, or is it different from Kshama Sawant? So, we'll see where that goes. But that's a very good question that you asked. Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully you'll find out. Progressive, centrist, conservative. I don't know where they stand for sure. But I would say this. Do you think that there is room on city council for a conservative Seattle City Council member in Seattle?
That's an interesting question, because I posed that question to a Fox 13 political analyst during one of my political segments the other day. And if you asked the Democratic, and I'm going to bring up Kathleen Allen, she's our Democratic political analyst, and she would say no, right? Because, we are very heavily blue, heavily progressive, and especially in District 3. So she would say no. But I don't know. When you look at the city attorney's race, I don't know if you followed that, but Ann Davison, she ran as a Republican. So that surprised a lot of people. So it's kind of, I think it's really the state of what is going to be most important to people when they go and vote. What issue? Is it public safety? If crime and public safety maybe is not in the direction that you want, that tends to usually kind of help more conservative candidates. But again, I think that is a relative term, because you can say you're conservative, but there's a spectrum of conservatism, and there's a spectrum of, I think, progressive people as well. So I don't think not everyone is going to be like one here and one there, right? Like we're all kind of on a spectrum. So I think it all depends on what is going to be top of mind for people when they vote. I think that's the question. But I do have to get going because I have a debate too.
You have a debate too.
So they're probably wondering where I am right now.
Appreciate you taking the time to come down
so
here.
Lovely to meet you.
And
Thank
pleasure
you so
to meet
much.
you as well.
Yes.
All right.
That was
Have at it. You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, your host, Tony B. We just had a chance to talk to one of the moderators of the debate, Hannah Kim. We'll see how she does when she's up there, and if she'll hold the candidates liable. And oh, great! Come on, right here. And you are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio, our pre-debate show. Joining me is from King 5 News, Mr. Greg Copeland. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Nice to meet you.
Well, pleasure to meet you. We're doing these pre-debate shows prior to the debates the City Club is producing in 1, 3, 4, and 5. And it's just kind of an informal opportunity for us to find out more about the questions, where you're getting the questions, how you plan on approaching this. But the first thing that I do as I find out more about you. So let's find out a little bit about your background, where you came from, how you ended up here.
Open book. Let's see. Grew up in Gig Harbor. Grandparents moved in Tacoma. So grandfather at, he went to Lincoln. Dad, Stadium. Mom, Wilson down in Tacoma. So I grew up in Gig Harbor on 5 acres, and it was a quiet life, a little bit different. I went to study journalism at Washington State, got into broadcast, it's been 27 plus years now, and worked my way up to where I am now. This is actually the first debate I've ever done.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. What else would you like to know?
How do you feel about Wazoo not being part of what, the Big 12?
It's the Pac-2 for right now, it sounds like. We'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping they have something up their sleeve, but that is a question that is certainly caused a lot of rifts here for us.
So do you live in District 3?
I do not live in District 3.
You do not live in District 3.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Working from downtown, covering the city a lot, and keeping up with a lot of the city politics. You get snippets here and there. And I think that's one of the challenges of figuring out what is important to District 3. And that's when we initially started talking about this and speaking with Jillian, I said, it's important that we get people in that district, get their questions, figure out what matters to them, and really get to the heart of the candidates and what makes them think that they're the best to represent this district and those people.
Well, that's why you're here. And I mean, there are some issues that are going to cover everything. I'm sure homelessness will come up, affordable housing, crime, drug use. These are things that are impacting the entire city.
Correct.
But they impact these districts and these communities a little differently. How familiar have you become with the redistricting that's taken place
a little bit
in District 3 and the impact that could have on this election?
I've only read a little bit about it, and I don't know that I would be comfortable to talk about it in depth. I think when we look at, as you mentioned, let me step back a little bit. You mentioned that a lot of these topics are broad for the city. Even within District 3, you have a very broad range of people from different economic backgrounds and different diversity. I mean, you can't look at Montlake and compare it to the Central District necessarily. Finding somebody who can appeal to all those people and try to get to the root of the different things that impact different groups and different sections of District 3, I wouldn't want that job, quite honestly. When you start getting into the redistricting, I mean, we hear a lot about it all over the country. I'm trying to think where I just read the other day, somewhere down in the South, they were fighting it. I can't remember if it was Georgia. I'm not familiar enough about the redistricting in this district to talk much about it.
Okay. And I ask that, if you don't know, this is how I get on. I just have open, honest, frank conversation. And we want this conversation to benefit the folks.
Absolutely.
Of
That was probably a really
of
long
district,
answer.
of
I
district
don't know.
of District 3. So my question is, talking to these folks who you are going to be asking the questions of the candidates for, assure them that you are going to be asking questions that matter to them.
Well, sure. So when you approach with any interview, do specifically something like this, you're going to have questions that come up that are very generalized, questions that you're hoping that when you're talking to those candidates who should know this district very well, you point those questions to a certain degree and you find out how well they know the issues in the district. And you hope that they bring up some of those things if you ask the question the right way. And if it doesn't come up, then you have those follow-up questions. So even if I don't know the entire backstory to District 3, I don't have to. They have to know it.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure that I hold them accountable to knowing it. So if they have a reason for something or they don't explain it enough, you have to ask those follow-ups so they can say, okay, well, let me explain this, or you have to ask them, please explain that further. What does it mean to these people? They're the ones who have to appeal to the voters in the district. The hard part is holding them to that.
Okay, so
sure
you said you've never done this before.
Nope. I've interviewed a lot of people,
but I'm talking about a debate like this, because
right.
debates can go in. How will you hold them accountable if you don't get the answer? Not that you're looking for a specific answer, but if you don't get an answer that you think realistically answers the question that these folks want to have. Now, I bring this up because it's not an easy thing to do. We've seen a couple national debates, and since we're on the internet, and I can say shit show. You know what I'm saying?
For lack of a better word, I think that's a pretty accurate description.
You know, I'm not saying people didn't garner things from them. Yeah, it's tough on a candidate to get 60 seconds to answer a question. But this is the opportunity that folks have to find out more about these candidates and become more informed voters. And it kind of starts with you.
It starts, but don't you think if the candidate doesn't answer that question, even with a follow-up, that says more about them?
Maybe.
But that's where I think where voters have to look at
Yeah.
how they answer those questions.
Yeah.
And when they see that, there has to be a follow-up. There has to be an effort there. You can't spend, it will just drag on. I mean, you can try to pull teeth, but sometimes the candidates aren't going to answer a question.
Yeah.
But that's where the voter has to be smart and say, okay, well, they didn't really answer that question. I've listened to a lot of people answer a lot of questions over 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And some people are just masterful at not answering a question.
It
sounds like
politicians.
Well, some of them are better than others. I mean, these are two people who don't have really any experience doing this.
Right.
And so, you know, you want to be easy on them to a degree, but they also have to show that they know this district and convince people why they are the right ones to help run this district and move it in the way that the people here want it to be.
You're listening again to Rainier Avenue Radio World. This is our District 3 debate. My guest is Greg Copeland from King 5, one of the moderators. When you're all said and done, and you've asked your questions, and you've asked the candidates to expand on their questions, what will you feel like success will be for you? What will you feel? Okay, I think that I did my due diligence, my whatever it was for me. This was success for me, because
I don't know that I can look at it and ever say, oh, this was, because it's not about me. It's about it's about the people in the audience and people listening. It's about the voters. I mean, all I can do is try to go out there and ask enough questions that people who live in this district want asked.
Yeah.
and make sure to follow up. I don't know that I'm always going to want to ask one more or three more questions or 10 more questions. I'll never have enough time. I mean, I think we could sit here and talk to the candidates for days on end and really nail them down to stuff. It's hard to do that in 1 hour debate.
Well, you can see I'm trying to get in your Kool-Aid right now. You know what I'm saying? So that we can find out what to expect when you get up there and ask questions. And I appreciate you taking the time to come down here and do that. One final word that you'd like to say to those out there who are in District 3 right now. The floor is yours. What would that be?
Well, I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't expecting anything here. I don't think, if I had anything to tell the people of District 3, I think that if you want change, it's incumbent upon you to help make that change. And if people if people really want that to happen, they have to get out to the polls and vote. It's the people who don't go out for whatever reason and then want to complain about the person that was hired. I don't have any sympathy for you. So if you want to see that change, you have to be that change. I mean, to borrow an old saying, you really do.
All right. Well, get at them.
I'm going to try. Wish me luck. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks for joining me, Greg.
You bet. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
good luck out there, bro.
Should I just take this off and keep going?
Just take those off.
Excellent.
And we have Professor. Who's next? Professor Carl Livingston. Come on over, sir.
Buckle up.
So good to see you. Put those on.
What am I doing? Just
There
right
we
there?
go. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
So, Professor Carl Livingston.
That's right. That's right.
You are doing opening statements
I am.
here today.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And let's talk. 23 years you've been here?
34.
34?
See, I didn't want to tell you. See, I know I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. Yeah, my students, they don't just go, damn. They go, dang, and it hurts my feelings.
Well, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of changes in
A lot of changes.
this
Yeah.
district over
I have.
those 30
I have.
4 years.
Yeah.
There is a debate here tonight.
Okay. That's right.
And I take these things seriously.
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
we're partnering with Q13 and
That's
King
right.
5 and
That's right.
and City Club. Unbeknownst to them, they're also partnering with me. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying?
Hey, say something about Rainier Avenue Radio now. That's right.
And so you know how I get down, open,
That's
honest,
right.
frank discussion.
That's right. That's right.
Um,
You've been doing this, man, and you're good at it. Absolutely.
So 2 of the 3 moderators that I've spoken with are
Mhm.
not from this district.
Got it. Yes.
As a person who's worked in District
Yes.
34 years,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that will impact this conversation
I
and the debate?
I don't think it'll impact it from the standpoint of the moderators,
Mhm.
but we're gonna be watching, and that's the good thing about Rainier Avenue Radio, because you're gonna be checking, fact checking,
Mhm.
and making sure things are right.
Yeah.
But these are the kind of things we do have to look out for,
Mhm.
because we've been policed by people outside of our community.
Mhm.
That doesn't work well all the time. And
Mhm.
sometimes we are led by politicians who are outside of our community,
Mhm.
and they don't care as much about how
Mhm.
things affect our community.
Yeah.
So let's hope that the moderators get it right tonight.
Yeah.
We'll be watching.
Well, they're going to have to, because this is really going to be one of the only opportunities
That's right.
for
That's
those who live in this district to
That's
get some
right.
of these questions answered.
Yes.
And if you live in this district and you are not a majority, you are a minority, you
Yes.
still have the same problems.
Yes.
But are those problems going to be addressed to show that you matter and you affect? Now, that's just where I'm coming from. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
But
I'm with you.
having said that,
Mhm.
man, what words of wisdom are you going to share with us as we kick this off? And why do you think it's important and relevant that we kick this off with someone from Seattle Central, which is where we're broadcasting from, the Broadway
Yes.
Performance Hall?
Yeah, that is a good question. And it's really good that it is here, because Seattle Central is the flagship college of the Seattle Community Colleges District. And it's interesting in a whole other respect that speaks exactly to what you're bringing up. And it's because the plan was always to build only a vocational school here, but the community rose up. The Filipino International District, Asian and Pacific Islander, Latino, Latinx community stepped up, but no community stepped up more than the central area, even to the tune of the Black Panthers leading the blocking of Broadway out there to demand that the powers that be build a full-scale school here connected to the community. I want to bring that spirit to tonight's debate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure on my commentary that you understand that I know that journalists can work outside of their community. I'm a
Yes.
journalist.
Yes.
But I'm just saying
Mhm.
that when you live in a community, when you work in a community, you have a different level of connection to the community. Not that a good journalist can't find out and do the
Yes.
due diligence to tell a great story. So that's just where I'm coming from, because that's what we do.
Exactly. And you've been doing it because I've been following you. I know your record. I know your history.
So nothing against
So
any of the moderators.
that's right.
We have this pre-debate thing
Yes.
so that you can say, well, what should I expect?
Yeah.
What am I going to get?
Yeah.
Who are the people involved in this thing?
Right.
You know, some of the context to that 1
Mhm.
hour that you have. So what would you say to District 3 voters right now, being in your 34 years at this school,
Yes.
that they should be wanting to hear
Mhm.
from the candidates
Yeah.
who are running to represent this brand new redistricted
Right.
district?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's always about three things. It's about the people overall. I want to hear their plan for the people overall in this district. But second, it's about the people that have been historically left out. So I want to hear your plan regarding those people. And a lot of times the politicians just get a pass because they say, I'm going to come and listen to hear what it is you get. No, 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 no. You're running for office. You've told those other groups the policies that you're going to go carry out when you get in office. Don't come just to listen to our community. We know that plan. We know that technique, and that's a way of giving us nothing. Tell us what specifically you want to do. And then lastly, it's about the poor. It's about the poor. It's about those that are unhoused. They got a home, but they ain't got a house. They got they're living and making and moving and trying to do what they need to do, but they don't really have health care.
Yeah.
And it's about what is your plan for people of any ethnicity, any persuasion who are struggling, who are having a hard time living in the community that they work in.
Yeah. My guest again, Professor Carl Livingston.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do a quick impromptu shout out here. 25 years ago, you wrote
I did.
a paper. Is that the
Yeah,
correct way of calling it?
affirmative action on trial. Yeah, scholarly article.
25 years ago, and you said
Yes.
you don't see affirmative action existing 25 years
Yeah,
ago.
I wanted it to exist, but what I did is I saw what was going on. I was reading the tea leaves, and I wanted to beat the drums. You know, in our community, drums mean something.
Yeah.
And that's a way that we warn, that's the way that we celebrate. And I wanted to beat the drums. Hey, y'all, they got a plan to end this thing. So we're going to need a more thorough and a more proof-oriented case that we bring in every community where we want affirmative action, or we're going to lose it. And the day I got the draft done that I started shopping of California ended affirmative action. That was in 1996. The day that I had the thing in my hands in 1998, state of Washington started pushing I-200, and the next year it passed. So I started seeing it. And I've been in these debates here and there, but there were a lot of people that said, you know what, Livingston, we don't really want to push that article because maybe we think your article is giving them a pass. I said, I'm not giving them a pass, but I'm saying we got more work to do because these conservatives ain't playing. They're trying to take everything.
Now, there was recently a Supreme Court decision.
There you go. Tell the story. 2 months ago, they have pretty much ended the whole thing for race. They're getting ready to end the whole thing for sex.
Yeah.
And I know what they were doing to take it away. I know what we should do to get it back. And so I'm hoping people will Google search Professor Carl Livingston, catch that interview of me, catch this interview, go to Rainier Avenue Radio, get this interview, and let's tell the story and get me out there talking about it, because I can help with the case to get it back. I did the research, and I know what they're doing.
Okay, so national politics may be a little different than local politics, but local politics impacts you directly.
Yes.
If you're not registered to vote, vote. Watch these debates. Do more due diligence so that you can become an informed voter. You don't want to get caught slipping.
Yeah. And can I say something else too?
Yeah.
I want to just remind all of your viewers that, man, you've been doing it right. You've been out there representing. You've been putting people's stories before the people. And man, you deserve, man, credit from our community. I got to give it to you.
Oh, thank you, bro. We're going to get ready to start a debate here pretty quickly. Do we have any? One more? Thank you,
Yes.
Professor Livingston. Come on, and who do I have here? One more time? Ilona. Okay. And Ilona, I don't have your information here. So tell me who you are and how you're involved in this debate and this process.
Well, my name's Ilona Lorai. I'm the president and CEO of GSBA, which is Washington State
Oh, okay.
LGBTQ plus and Allied Chamber of Commerce, and we partner with Seattle City Club.
You're a partner.
Yes. Yes.
Well, cool. Tell us a little bit more about your organization.
Yes. So we are basically a chamber of commerce with a twist, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we support educational and economic opportunities within the
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ plus and allied community.
Mm-hmm.
We're located here on Capitol Hill. That's where our headquarters is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited about the debate tonight.
What was it that you said to yourself or your organization or your group or the board or the body, whatever, that
Yeah.
said we need to get vested in this, we need to be involved in this partnership, this is going to be a big deal for us?
Absolutely. Well, we represent business,
Mhm.
mainly small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and Capitol Hill has the highest small business concentration per square foot in anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very central neighborhood to us, and we want to make sure that the candidates for city council understand small business.
Mm-hmm.
They understand what that they're different from large business. They understand that these are businesses that the owners put their sweat, tears, equity into it, and they support not their own families, but other families as well of their employees. So they're
Mhm.
essential to our neighborhoods, and that not all taxes can be added on the back of small business. That's what our goal is, to make sure that our city council understands small business and knows how to read financial statements.
All right. And I don't like using these $25 words, but you also represent marginalized, underrepresented, whatever the $25 words are,
Sure.
for people whose voices aren't often heard,
Mhm.
or are victims
Yes.
in different. How does that impact what you want to have happen during this District 3 debate?
I want to know. I don't want to hear canned answers. I don't want to hear political answers, like the typical political canned answers. I want to see the real people that are running for office. I want to know what they're doing for our communities. Our LGBTQ plus community intersects into so many different communities. We are made up of varying different components, and I want our city council to put their money where their mouth is.
Mhm.
I want them to be supportive of our communities, see the people in our community,
Mhm.
see not just the business owners, see the residents, see what's going on in the streets. I want the people to be able to feel safe
Mhm.
in their neighborhoods, on their way to work, on their way to the bus stop. I want to see change in our city.
You know, like I said, I'm just here to have more of an informal conversation. I have open, honest, frank conversation.
Mhm.
You talking about the businesses
Mhm.
in the Capitol Hill area and talking about some of the specific residents in this area. That's what I was hoping to hear from the moderators who are going to ask the questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going with that. But it was good to hear you talk specifically about some of the issues that may be unique to this community.
Yes.
how important is it that these candidates and the moderators get that right so that folks feel that they're being talked to
Mhm.
as residents of their various communities in a redistricted
Yes,
District 3?
it's very important. That's what it all is about, because issues of safety on Capitol Hill are very different than issues of safety, say, in Queen Anne.
Mm-hmm.
It is very neighborhood specific, and people need to understand, our candidates need to understand our neighborhood. They need to understand what people are dealing with on the daily. And it's very different from neighborhood to neighborhood. Otherwise, we probably already would have this problem solved.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out.
Yes.
Because we're also going to do a post-debate show.
I love it.
And see if needs were met, if questions were answered,
Yes.
if questions were asked.
Yes.
So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And being part of this.
Yes.
And maybe you can come back for the post-debate show and tell me how you felt.
I would love to. Yeah.
All
'cause
right.
You're going to hold them accountable.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World. This is our pre-debate show. We'll be back following the debate at 8 o'clock with a post-debate show where we're going to talk about what you heard on the debate, how you feel about it, if your questions were answered, if you received anything that made you feel, you know what, now I feel more informed. I know who I want to vote for. That's it. That's all the time I have right now. We'll be back. I guess they're having the coin toss now. The debate will be starting at 7 o'clock. We'll be back at 8 o'clock with the post-debate show right here on Rainier Avenue Radio World. It's me, your host, Tony B. Remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you're probably right. We'll see you at 8. Debate starts at 7. You can watch that here too. Peace.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
We must all remain committed to slow the spread of coronavirus, taking care of ourselves and not putting others in harm's way, especially those already at high risk of getting seriously ill, including people over 65 or those with underlying medical conditions. If you must be out, avoid crowded areas, stay 6 feet or 2 arm lengths away from others, and wear a face covering. Wash hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds, especially after being in public spaces. Avoid touching your face, cough or sneeze in a tissue, then throw it away. Disinfect frequently touched objects. And if you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. Slowing coronavirus means taking care of ourselves while also protecting others. Even if you're not at high risk, these steps should be taken to help slow the spread of coronavirus. We are all in this together.
Dealing with COVID-19 is uncharted territory, and everyone has different challenges. People may feel anxious, down, or overwhelmed. For some, these feelings can lead to changes in sleep patterns, an increased use of alcohol or drugs, or withdrawing from the people around them. If you know someone who's having a hard time coping, you can help by reaching out to talk and listen. To learn more about how you can help someone in need, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. Brought to you by the state of Washington.
Welcome to the coronavirus pandemic. I'll take coronavirus for 100. Fever, chills, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell. What is staying home and isolate? Correct. Coronavirus for 200. Inability to stay awake, persistent pain or pressure in chest, double breathing. What is seek immediate help?
Coronavirus for 500.
Crippling and potentially dead infectious disease eliminated in the United States with vaccination.
What is the polio vaccine? I'll take coronavirus for 700.
The Daily Double! Should I take the coronavirus vaccine?
Wait. Hold up. This is not a game. It's time for serious discussions. We have coronavirus vaccines, but not everyone is comfortable taking them. Here's the facts. Based on what has been proven about vaccines for other diseases, COVID-19 vaccine may help keep you from getting seriously ill, even if you do get the virus. Getting vaccinated also may protect people around, particularly those at greater risk for severe illness from COVID-19. We don't yet have all of the answers. Get informed, talk to your healthcare physician, and make the right decision for you. This is a message supported by the Washington State Department of Health.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not using my GPS to navigate the land of 1,000 dances, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
My name is Keith. I'm a barber from Tacoma, Washington. When the pandemic hit, it did affect me as a business owner. I had my own personal reasons why I didn't get vaccinated. But I was talking to a doctor, and he was telling me more about what it could do to protect us and our family. I wanted to get back to that once was, right? I do feel safe knowing that I am vaccinated. I just hope what I'm saying is reaching into people's heads to know that this is the best decision for all of us. To learn more, please visit hereforuswa.org.
Did you know that there's an updated COVID-19 booster that protects you even more than the original vaccines? Even if you got the first vaccinations, now it's time to get this new updated booster shot. It's especially important for adults 50 and over and people with a compromised immune system. Even though you may not hear about people catching COVID as often, each week in King County, some people even end up in the hospital because of it. So check with your loved ones and make sure they've gotten an updated booster. For more information on where to get a COVID vaccine, including free vaccination resources, visit kingcounty.gov/vaccines. kingcounty.gov/vaccines.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Generational wealth to me means to provide and establish wealth for generations to come, whether it be through real estate or through other equitable funding.
Personally, it helps to work with a trusted financial professional to guide and steer you, because you're going to be making some decisions around how you spend your money, how you save your money, how you invest your money. Some of that will be strictly to increase size of your wealth. Other parts of those investments might be something that you want to do that key to your purpose and your character. And you can manage to do both.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. For more information, visit kingcounty.gov.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not driving my sweet AMC Pacer through the car wash, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. You missed a spot.
Do you have an idea for a community project in your neighborhood? You could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the City of Seattle's Neighborhood Matching Fund. Grants are awarded to grassroots projects that build stronger communities, with an emphasis on projects led by impacting Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. To learn more about the Neighborhood Matching Fund or to see if your project meets the criteria, visit seattle.gov/neighborhoods/NMF.
Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth?
We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Generational wealth is having financial security and not having to worry about it for yourself, your immediate family, and future generations. It's a very elusive idea to me personally because it's not something in my immediate experience, and it's only something that I'm learning about a little bit more in theory and knowing for
From the Broadway
if
Performance Hall
that's
at
like
Seattle
a
Central College.
real
Good evening,
possibility.
And welcome to the debate between candidates who want to represent you, District 3 on the Seattle City Council. I'm Greg Copeland with King 5.
I'm Hannah Kim with Fox 13.
And I'm Cesar Canizales with Converge Media. This debate has been organized by the Seattle City Club, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. Seattle City Club is dedicated to improving the civic health of the Puget Sound region and to providing voter access to those who hold and seek political office. We want to first thank our sponsors, Comcast, GSBA, Puget Sound Energy, the Henry M. Jackson Foundation, and our hosts, the Seattle Colleges. Thanks to our media partners and our production partner, PNTA.
And anyone watching this tonight can be part of the conversation on social media by using the hashtag SEALEXCLX. And also, we want to thank everyone. A special thank you for the live audience tonight. They've agreed to no cheers, no boos, and to hold your applause until the end of the debate, except for right now, when we want to introduce you to tonight's candidates. That is Joy Hollingsworth.
Thank you.
And we also have Alex Hudson. Thank you too for both being here.
So let's lay out the format for tonight's debate. And I do want to reiterate the applause. Please hold it for the end. It will be very tempting to applaud after each response from the candidates, but please let's hold that to the very end. I will actually prompt you at the end when we're all done. It just speeds things up and keeps it a more interesting contest. All right, each candidate will have 90 seconds for an opening statement. Questions will then be asked to both candidates. They will have 1 minute for that initial response to the question. Our panel will then lead some follow-up discussion on that topic before moving on to the next question. So with that, let's get started. We did flip a coin backstage, and Alex, I know you won but deferred. So Joy, you will have the opening statement. You may begin.
Well, good evening. I want to definitely thank the Seattle City Club, the GSBA, and then on the beautiful campus of Seattle Colleges. It's home to 45,000 students, 130 workforce programs, and they have been serving our community since 1970. And so that's phenomenal. My name is Joy Hollingsworth, and I'm running for Seattle City Council, District 3. I'm a nonprofit leader, small business owner, community connector, and a problem solver. And I'm a third generation Seattleite. And I got into this race because our response to public safety, our response to homelessness, the affordability crisis that we've seen going on in our city, also our infrastructure. And most importantly, what I've seen on our streets is our youth, how they're severely neglected. And the light bulb moment for me was understanding how all of those interconnect. And as we have now transitioned from that sleepy city into that teenager phase of a city, what type of home do we want to build for our community? What type of adult do we want to be for our working class families, for our teachers, our educators, our artists, our community? Because we have been hyper-focused about building a city, and I believe our challenge today is how we build a home. I'm looking forward to answering the questions tonight, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Alex, before you talk, I have 20 seconds here I wanted to use really quickly. I know you will be both addressing the camera. It's hard to make out these lights. The green one will be, you're still good to go. Yellow's getting down there. And the red, I'll be lenient on that, but I will try to cut you off. So I know it's hard to focus on that. I may try to get your attention that way. Alex, you may go.
Yeah, great. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. My name is Alex Hudson, and I have the honor and privilege of being a candidate for Seattle City Council here in the beautiful District 3. I'm a mom and a renter and a transit rider, and I'm a progressive leader with a long track record of results. I was born here in King County, and because of my dad's good union job, got to be the first person in my family to go to college. And I worked my way through, and the year that I graduated, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And because I didn't have health insurance, Medicaid stepped up and saved my life, which means that good government programs and the people who fought for them are the reason I'm here today. And that experience is what led me to dedicate my life to public service, which is what I've done for well over a decade. For 5 years, I was the executive director of First Hills Neighborhood Organization, where we helped to build affordable housing and site homeless shelters. I ran an organization that made public transit free for every kid in Washington. And I know that things in Seattle feel really tough right now. But hard is not the same thing as impossible, and it is within our ability to create the thriving, safe Seattle where everyone has a safe, affordable place to sleep. No one has to sleep on our streets. We take care of people, and we have thriving, wonderful communities. It's only possible with effective leadership in City Hall.
Thank you very much. And as a side note, I appreciate that both of you came out there talking about yourselves and not the other person. Let's get right into this. There are a lot of big topics to handle. There are a lot of smaller, very specific topics that we want to handle tonight as well. A recent Crosscut Elway poll asked Seattle voters which issues are the most important as they decide to vote in the next city council election. By far, homelessness was number one, as you might imagine. That was followed by crime and affordable housing, but we're going to begin with homelessness. The 2022 point-in-time count found more than 13,000 people experiencing homelessness. That's in King County and Seattle as well. That's a 5% increase from 2020. This year, the city budgeted $153.7 million to fight that crisis. The question before you, do you think that money is being well spent? What would you do differently?
Yeah, homelessness is a severe crisis. It's a moral crisis, and it stops us from living our full potential here in the city of Seattle. And there are few things that could be more important than ensuring that everyone has a safe, affordable place to live. We are investing quite a bit in this issue. Of course we are. It is an enormous one. But we need to get closer to the root causes of homelessness and the actual solutions at scale. We need to be doing things like standing up shelters immediately. We need transitional housing and hotels and tiny houses. And we need the programs that are able to connect with people, build trust, and get people inside. The solution to our homelessness crisis is to build more housing, and that will take time. But it is possible with services, investments, and programs to get a handle on this issue and be better close to living our values and what we want to see and accept in our streets.
Joy?
Yeah, so in 2013, we spent $30 million on homelessness, and now we're at $157 million. We've seen the increase of homelessness spending. We've also seen the increase of on our streets. The one thing that we have not increased are shelter beds. And so the first thing as we talk about homelessness, we have to split it apart. You have 4 parts. It's an affordable housing issue. We also have a mental health crisis on our street. We also have a drug disorder on our streets that we see, and we also have a group of vulnerable people preying on folks. And so if we can pull it apart, and that's a public safety issue, and address that, we have to have more emergency shelters, RV car lots, day centers for people to be able to go connect to resources. We also need more emergency shelters as well. We also have to have this place where people can be able to go get treatment for the fentanyl crisis that we see on our streets, and then also the mental health that we see as well. So we have to split it in 4 parts and attack it in different ways.
All right. Please hold your applause for the end. I know it's tempting. Joy, this one right back at you. Several studies show a lack of affordable housing. Obviously, we're going to talk about that more in depth. Among the top contributors to homelessness, a report from the State Department of Commerce earlier this year said that King County will need to build roughly 17,000 units per year over the next 20 years just to keep up with the population growth, nothing else. Where should those be built in Seattle or in District 3, and why?
Yeah, look, District 3, we've seen an increase. We live in one of the most dense places in our city. And when affordability got difficult for our family, my grandmother bought our home in 1947. We turned our house into a triplex back in 2001, where she was able to age in place as we saw our neighborhood changing and getting more unaffordable. And so a couple ways in which we can attack this. We can streamline our building process for permits. It took us 3 months to get a building permit. You'd be hard pressed for a year or 2 years to get permits in our city. So we have to streamline our building process. The second piece is that we have to build more family housing. We have built a lot of single rooms, a lot of studios, but we have to be a city that's more welcoming to young families, and we have to build more city for more family housing as well. So any type of housing is needed. And then duplexes, triplexes, ADUs, all the people that are trying to age in place to being add to density into their neighborhoods, we should be welcoming that to streamline that process.
Alex?
Yeah, I am a renter myself, and so I know how important this issue of affordability is and how much it is becoming harder and harder to make your paycheck take you through the month after you pay your rent. I'm on the board of one of the largest affordable housing providers in King County, and so I've spent years working on this issue, organizing my community to help to build one of the largest affordable housing projects completed in Seattle in the last 60 years. It's got 350 units of housing. And I live in one of the densest places in Seattle. But I know that our comprehensive plan is going to call for us to add more housing in more places, and we need to be able to do that faster, cheaper, and easier. There are things like streamlining our permitting. We've been doing like Portland does and bringing it all under one roof, or like Auburn and creating an ombudsman program. We need to invest in deep affordability. We need to increase the supply, and we need to do this very quickly so that everyone can have a safe, affordable place to live.
I'm going to go back at both of you. Alex, I'm going to start with you. You both answered part of the question, but we didn't get very specific. And I think when people start thinking about District 3 specifically, it's very diverse, much different up north than it is down south. You have lots of different styles of neighborhoods. Building more affordable housing in one of those areas is going to get more pushback than others. How do you build affordable housing in, say, a Montlake, and tell the people who are there who have their maybe a nice home and don't want to see a multi-family house or unit come in? How do you tell them that's just the way it is? It has to go there. We have to find place to build these homes. Alex, that's for you.
Yeah, people in Montlake are feeling this squeeze just like everyone. This issue around affordability has come home for us all. Right now, the state legislature passed a bill last year that says that every formerly single family zone has up to 3 units of housing in it. So we've already made some pretty significant changes here. One way we can help is to create automatic templates of housing, like how you used to buy a house out of the Sears robot catalog. We can work with our architecture and history departments to create templates of multifamily housing that are beautiful, reflect our history, look like our architecture, and so that and that come with a very fast permit. This is an easy way to create beautiful housing quickly.
Joy?
Yeah, so some of those neighborhoods you're talking about, whether it's Montlake, Madrona, a lot of those neighborhoods are thinking about affordability because they do not have, their property taxes are going up. These are middle-class folks who, are trying to make ends meet, and they are slipping down lower and lower into, where it's being really hard. They're getting squeezed. And so they're asking me about, hey, how can I be able to put an ADU in my backyard? How can I be able to turn my house into a triplex or duplex? These are people that are wanting to do that to create affordability for our city. And I think we need to embrace that and encourage that.
We'll talk about some more of the specifics here in a little bit because it obviously all gets intertwined. We do want to pivot this discussion a bit. Well, a pressing concern that has captured the attention of Seattleites and ignited some pretty passionate debates is the state of public safety in our city. Hannah Kim now has some questions for you about that.
Okay. So on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your opinion about the severity of crime? And again, opinion about the severity of crime in Seattle, 1 being the least safe and 10 being the most safe. Alex?
Feel like that kind of depends on the day. It's clear and obvious to all of us that we are not on track on this issue. There is far too much disorder in our streets. There's far too much suffering and misery in our streets, and it's affecting all of us. Everybody wants solutions to this, and we know what they are. We can increase public safety in our district with effective solutions that are built on our progressive values. If we make sure that everyone can come inside, we create the addiction health hubs that are necessary to connect people who are suffering with addiction to save their lives and get them connected to the support that they need and deserve. And if we ensure that we have enough mental health and residential care facilities for people who are truly ill to come inside. If we are able to do that, as well as stand up a meaningful and impactful and effective alternative response to our police officers, we will ensure that if you need help or you see somebody who needs help, there's always someone who will show up and be able to do something about it.
So from 1 being least safe and 10 being most safe, I know you said it depends on the day. But I do want to get your opinion, and I think it's important because, like you said, crime is sometimes perspective, how you feel and how you feel during that day. So when you're walking around Seattle, you said you're a mom, you use transit. How do you feel from 1 to 10? Do you feel moderately safe? Do you not feel safe? Where are you on public safety?
Yeah, I feel sad and disappointed. I oftentimes feel afraid. I would love to be able to send my kid to the park without a second thought, or to not have her come home after coming home from school with some story about something that shouldn't happen. So this is I feel this issue as much as anyone, and it's clearly affecting everyone. I also have plenty of lovely experiences here in our beautiful district, and I know that doesn't excuse the things that do happen, but it is a lovely place.
So you don't want to pick a number. Okay, Joy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm at a 10. It depends where.
Let's hold the applause.
It really depends. Look, public safety, whether we understand it consciously or subconsciously, it affects us. What time you're going to the grocery store, where you parking your car, you're circling the blocks two times to figure out where you're parking it, where you're walking down the street. I don't have to fearmonger here. This is what we're experiencing right now. And if you're in Southeast Seattle, which is 12% of the population, but it's over 38% of the gun violence going on in our city, you're not feeling safe right now. Or if you're in the Central District and we're experiencing what we have been with the gun violence going on and the activity on our streets, you're not feeling safe. And so, I support the mayor's plan for 1,400 police officers. And in addition to gun violence prevention programs, understanding that we have to have our health one with our fire department, ensuring that they're being safe out into the encampments that they're going in, connecting people to resources as well. Also, ensuring that our kids have something to do as well, and keeping everyone safe.
So I do want to clarify. I think you meant to say 1 being the least safe and 10 being the most safe. I wanted to get that on the record, Joy.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm at a 1.
Just want to make sure. I wanted to make sure on that. Thank you for that answer. And so I want to specifically zone in on Capitol Hill. When you look at the number as of September of this year, you had 1,613 cases of crime, and that's both violent and property crime in Capitol Hill alone. And what would be interesting to District 3 is that is actually higher. It's the highest number of cases. It's even more than downtown Seattle right now. So what would you do specifically in the Capitol Hill area that would make people safer, Alex?
Yeah, one of the things about Capitol Hill is this is home to the East Precinct. And so our police officers are right here in this neighborhood, and we are still seeing these rates of crime. So we need to ask ourselves, what are the fuller and better solutions to make sure that that we have as lovely a place that reaches its full potential? And we know what those effective solutions are. We need mental and behavioral health centers so that people who are very sick in our streets and who are causing a lot of disruption have somewhere that they can go and get the treatment that they need so that they can get better, not just this cruel cycle that keeps continuing. We need to be investing in our small businesses and making sure that they have the resources that they need in order to address some of the issues that are going on. We need to build more housing for folks. We can have things like they have in the University District where they have neighborhood ambassadors. We can increase the lighting and increase through SEPTED, which is safety through environmental design. There's a lot of work that we can do on this issue.
Joy?
Yeah, look, one of the places, specifically Cal Anderson Park, has to have better lighting. That place has become, unfortunately, at night, a place where a lot of activity has happened. We do have an East Precinct, but at any point in time, they have 12 officers and they ride in units of cars, double pairs, so it's six units out there. If they're all responding to a priority 1 call, which is like unfortunately, the car that ran through one of the retail shops here on Capitol Hill through the front door, all of them are at that one place, and so there's other places they cannot respond to. And so we're talking about lighting, we're talking about creating like these safe environments, lowering our response time, our Health One department, which we have our fire department here on Capitol Hill, which is one of the most busiest fire departments responding to different stuff, whether it's overdoses, whether it's connecting with neighbors and connecting with resources. we have to ensure that they have a lot of the resources that they need to respond to that as well. So specifically in Capitol Hill, we're talking about Health One, Fire Department, and ensuring that we have low response time for our department.
Teen violence is in the news almost every day now, from carjackings to armed robberies to even murder. So what new policies would you implement to address teens committing the most violent crimes in our community? And Joy?
Yeah, it's the fact that we have middle school kids and teens doing a lot of the activity on the street is literally a failure on us as a society and as adults. And so we need more in-school mentorship, gun violence prevention programs. We have to refund our Parks Department. I had a job, my first job was at Garfield Community Center. I made $7.25 an hour cleaning up garbage, connecting with our neighbors, ensuring that the director there had all the paperwork that she needed. I learned about responsibility. And so one of the biggest things that I would love to bring to our city of Seattle is a youth job portal where you can go on our website for youth jobs to find out which department you can be able to, have these different jobs and activities so you can be able to learn the skills, the work, also bring back the Seattle Vocational Institute, SVI, that is in our district as well for our young people as well. And so we have an array of different plans that are district specific.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm the mom of a teenager, and so we know this issue really well. The American Pediatric Association said that, that our young people are experiencing severe mental health impacts, both from COVID and from living in such a very difficult world. So we know we need some clear solutions here. One of them is obviously we need to have teen centers that are open late at night so that kids have somewhere to go and something to do. We need to increase the amount of summer jobs and city internships that we have. We have things, we have gaps in things like, lifeguards, and these are the kinds of jobs that we can have our young people be doing as they're training into other kinds of work in our recreation and in our public sector. And I think what we really need to address is this mental health crisis. The city is going to pass our FEPS levy, our Families Education and Promise levy next year. And one of the ways that we can really invest here is supporting those mental and behavioral health resources inside the school so that we have no less than a 1 to 250 to student ratio and help kids out.
I do want to follow up with one thing before we move on from public safety, and it deals with teens. Central District is the home for the Youth Detention Center, which is District 3. There is a push to get rid of that eventually in the coming years, including Dow Constantine, the King County Executive. Do you agree with getting rid of the Youth Detention Center? And this is a detention center that deals only with teens who commit the most violent crimes. Do you support getting rid of that detention center? Joy?
Yeah, I'm on board for that plan. And what that means is we could spend $1,500 a year to mentor a kid, or it's $40,000 to put them in Echo Glen. And so if we can invest in our kids now, particularly at middle school, right, before they get into high school, because they're ripe at the age of vulnerability in middle school, we could set them on pathways that are healthy pathways that keep them out where we don't need the youth detention center anymore. And so that's the investment that we want to see. That's a good goal to work towards, and I support it wholeheartedly with those investments.
Yeah, obviously we do not want to see children in jail, and we should always be building towards a society that does better than that. One of the things that we passed in April was the crisis care levy, and that is going to have a special crisis center that is just for young people. I think that would be an incredible transition away from basically the school to prison pipeline and towards a world that invests in our young people and creates a pathway to them being able to heal and thrive.
All right, we're going to move on to our next topic here, affordable housing. We'll get a little more deeper into that. As Seattle has grown, so has the struggle with the housing affordability, as we have already discussed a little bit. This is an obstacle, obviously, for the unhoused. It is one of the major obstacles. A lot of people like to cite other reasons, but if you read study after study, it's the lack of affordable housing that tends to cause this, with a lot of people right there on the verge of being homeless. But this is also something that affects a lot of low to middle income homeowners as well, trying to hold on to those houses they've had for years. Want you to keep that in mind as Caesar asks you some more questions about affordable housing.
Yeah, both of you have listed housing affordability as one of your top 3 priorities. According to some estimates, building affordable housing could cost hundreds, if not billions of dollars. Who would build the housing that is needed, and how would it be funded? Joy, why don't we start with you?
Could you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
According to some estimates, building affordable housing could cost hundreds, if not billions of dollars. Who would build that housing that is needed, and how would it be funded?
Yeah, so our housing crisis, we know that we're one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing city in America. And people are coming here from all across the country to be able to live into the city of Seattle. And so this is not just a city of Seattle issue. This is also a regional issue. This is also, a county issue as well. And so when you're talking about different revenue streams, who should build this, who should fund this, these are all these great ideas, who's gonna build this and fund this? We have money. We have money in our budget. We have money in different pathways to be able to build housing. And so when we're thinking about new tax streams, one of them is a CEO tax that we can implement, a high earners tax. There's so many different pathways. We have our MHA. We have all these different ways in which people are able to build affordable housing. But we also need to lean on our federal government as well, as we're seeing this influx of a population to be able to provide some of those funding gaps for affordable housing.
Yeah, I've been working on the issue of affordable housing for a very long time, both as a board member of an organization that works to provide low-income and workforce housing, and as a leader in my neighborhood as we were striving to ensure that there was affordable housing being built as we were growing. So we know that there's a couple of ways that we have to do this. As you mentioned, it's quite a daunting task, and the government itself can't take it all on. But there is, of course, a role for the public sector, both in helping to support our Office of the Housing, Seattle Housing Authority, but also in supporting the Social Housing Initiative, which is a transition towards a permanent supportive housing source. We also need to keep investing in our nonprofit sector through things like our housing levy, which is going to be on your ballot in November, and helps us to create deeply important investments in the lowest, folks with the lowest incomes, at 50% AMI and below. And we're going to have the market deliver a lot of this housing as well for people who can afford market rate and above. But the city has a responsibility to make it faster, easier, and cheaper for that housing to get built, so that we can get it as quickly as we need to be able to bend the cost curve here.
In the last decade, many community members who lived in the Central District and Black or low-income areas have been pushed out or displaced due to gentrification. White and wealthy neighborhoods have remained largely untouched. Some of that displacement was also caused by new housing developments. How would you balance the need for more housing, keeping communities together, and ensuring more equitable development? Alex, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we have seen shameful levels of displacement and gentrification in the Central District and throughout South Seattle. And part of that is because, as you mentioned, the wealthy white neighborhoods have been able to successfully prevent additional housing being built in their communities, and that needs to stop. We also need to make sure that we're protecting and bringing folks back through things like the right of first return, like at the Liberty Bank project. We need to make sure that we're supporting affordable home ownership, like the program that was passed at the state. We need to be doing automatic enrollment and property tax deferral so elders can have their costs get brought down. We need to be investing in maintenance so you don't lose your house because you can't afford a new roof. We need to be also investing in our equitable development initiative, which helps to build community around housing. We need to make it so that Black developers can get in on this too, right? So that Black people are not just recipients of housing, but get to build intergenerational wealth through both home ownership and development.
Joy.
Yeah, this one is really passionate to me, just because I've seen our neighborhood change significantly in the Central District and been on the forefront of trying to ensure that a lot of our neighbors that look like me are able to keep their home and be able to age in place and pass it down to generations after generations. I mentioned before that we turned our house into a triplex to be able to afford affordability. There's a lot of people that want to do that, but they don't know how. They didn't have the funds. They didn't have the technical assistance to be able to do that. And so if we can offer more innovative programming that are able to transition people that can age in place and be able to turn their house into different type of multifamily housing units, that's perfect. We can invest in HomeSite, which creates their Sam Smith program, which allows people, first-time home buyers. Representative Taylor passed a great bill at the state level for people to be able to come back into the Central District to purchase homes, and it matches your down payment assistance as well. You have your Liberty Bank, and you also have Africatown that's done a phenomenal job of bringing homes and people back into the community.
So when old houses are torn down to build developers typically build townhomes or luxury apartments, people get priced out. What actions would you take to make sure developers build housing that people can actually afford? Alex?
People get priced out because we haven't built enough housing, and we've allowed for a very cruel game of musical chairs to occur, where only people with the highest incomes are able to compete in a market to have their basic human right to a house met. And so obviously, and single family homes, there are very few of them that are available for sale for less than $1 million anymore. So we need to make sure that we are increasing the supply of housing, so we're adding more chairs to that game. So it's really critical, but we can also help our developers bring the costs down by making it faster, easier, and cheaper through that permitting and streamlining that I've been talking about. We can incentivize affordability within these new developments with things like expansions of our multifamily tax exemption, so that existing buildings can provide up to 3,000 units of affordable housing that are currently locked away. So there's quite a number of solutions here that really involve making sure everybody has a place to live.
Yeah, one of the ways that we can be able to create more affordability within our district, incentivizing family housing, being able to also incentivize like flats and condos. I know we have a lot of townhomes in our city because we have to build very skinny and very tall, but that's not ideal for a lot of families that might have a toddler that are scared about their toddler falling down 3 flights of stairs, or elderly people that cannot go up and down those stairs as well. So incentivizing condos being built. Also, besides streamlining the permitting process, this is one thing that's really important that we don't think about, is also working with our Seattle Public Utilities and how when developers are able to connect to like a sewer line or the electrical line, how long that takes for folks and the cost in that. And then that's passed on to the buyer or the tenant as well. And so all of these are interconnected about affordability. And if we can streamline and make it a little bit quicker, all those costs will not get built into the final piece of housing.
I think we could talk about affordable housing for this entire debate and never solve it. There's so much to it, and it is going to take a huge effort. So whichever one of you moves on, you're going to have to work with the city council to try to figure that out, not just for this district, but for this entire city. That said, let's talk a little bit about small businesses. They are the backbone of really any big city. Caesar has some questions for you.
So many of these small businesses closed during the pandemic. They shut down permanently. Many are still struggling in many cases because of safety and security issues, going back to public safety. How would you support small businesses in this climate? Joy?
Yeah, one of the ways, look, I'm a small business owner, and so I get it, in one of the most highly regulated industries in the state. And so I understand the pain that small businesses have unfortunately gone through during the pandemic. 6,500 small businesses in the city of Seattle either closed or permanently closed during our city. And when we saw all the big businesses run away from downtown and desert downtown, we saw our small businesses holding it down in neighborhoods, ensuring that people had food, their coffee, whether it was daycare. Like, these small businesses were literally the backbone of our city. And so one of the ways in which we can create a safer environment, a lot of small businesses are hiring their own private security to create safe places for their patrons to come in. And so that's an additional cost that is factored into their operational costs. The second piece is the revitalization of downtown, bringing in our arts, our community, our culture, our small businesses. That's going to be revitalizing our downtown and ensuring that our small businesses are always a part of that plan to create that economic development.
Yeah, our small, like here in District 3, one of the things I've learned is that we have the highest concentration of small businesses anywhere in the state of Washington. It's one of the things that makes this such an incredibly special place, and we want to protect that. Of course, we need to have, taking care of folks and increasing public safety and calming our streets through the solutions that get people connected to better care. We need to figure out how to support our small businesses directly. Obviously, there's a state constitutional amendment that means we can't just provide grants, but we can figure out ways that we can support, especially around property damage. We can incentivize shopping with things like sales tax holidays on special days that make it so that we're contributing to that downtown activation. Many small businesses find it difficult to get insurance right now. The city can be very helpful in that. We can provide more technical and material support, especially in language. And we need to take away the incentive that people get if you leave your business vacant, which is considered a tax write-off, which is not helpful.
And I want to ask a question about small business. I want to have a question pertaining to small businesses. When you talk to a lot of business owners in Seattle, and not just District 3, they say that they don't get the police response time sometimes to property crimes. And when you look at the numbers right now, we have 937, about that number, deployable officers, which is way less, hundreds less than just 10 years ago. So the police department have said, we are giving out bonuses, we are doing these campaigns, but for years now, recruitment is not successful. So what would you do differently to draw people to the Seattle Police Department? Alex?
Yeah, we need to make sure that we're using our limited police resources effectively so that when you experience a crime, that they are focused on that. That means we need to get more ambitious about standing up our alternative response model. We've been waiting years for the city to roll this out, and they just did last week, and there's 6 people that are staffed in it. And a police officer has to come first. So it's not alleviating the pressure, it's just contributing to it. So if we can make it so that we have, like Kirkland and Albuquerque, people who are able to respond to the almost 40% of calls, which are for mental or behavioral health issues, then we're going to free up our police resources to focus on things like property and violent crime. We need to, and as we're doing that, I think that will have a recruiting effect to it. We need to have reform in our police department so that our police officers are acting always impeccably with the highest level of professional standards. That will help to recruit police officers. And we need to be showing people that we are serious about these solutions that are built around progressive values, but are effective so that folks know that they're not going to have to show up to work solving the same problem over and over and over again.
Joy.
Police accountability is like number one, right? Police accountability and transparency. But I also believe that the tone of the council needs to change and it needs to shift. And while that
hold the applause, please.
while that changes and shifts, I'm hoping that will be able to attract a different type of officer, a different type of culture. Not talking about warriors, we're talking about guardians, right? Like that is a different shift. And my time is up, and that's my answer.
I'm going to give you a few more seconds because Alex had an extra 30 seconds, so go ahead.
We also need to support Before the Badge program. It's a program where people get connected to communities before they're in crisis. So they connect with the Black community, whether it's the South End community, LGBTQIA community, and they engage in the recruits before they get into the program, before the badge. They engage in these communities, which is important because they're engaging with them before they're in crisis. So they get to know the person before they're engaging with them, so they know how to de-escalate certain things.
I'm going to jump in here and ask one more follow-up because this is a big topic, and you each get 30 seconds to answer this. We have the time to do it. How do you get police officers to come work in a place where they don't feel like they're wanted? Joy?
Yeah, well, one, I talk about the tone of the council, but I think what's really important too is amplifying voices that are severely impacted by when we take certain policing out of communities, right? They're impacted significantly higher because what you want for your neighborhood might be different for what a neighborhood actually needs. And so I want to amplify those voices who have been screaming, who have been shouting, who have been pledging for positive relationships with our department. and ensuring that, that they understand that there are some people that want a certain type of relationship with them.
Alex?
Yeah, I think we need to bring back our beat cop model. Right now, far too many of our police officers are spending their time in their cars, and that makes it really hard to get to build those trusting relationships with small business owners, with neighborhood stakeholders, with residents, so that we can begin that really important process of building trust between community and police. We can also be helping with things like, creating more community oversight programs that are all helpful in forging those relationships so that police officers are serving and protecting their community, which of course I believe the vast majority of them are trying to do.
We want to move on to transportation for a second. So if you were a council member, what is the very first transit policy that you would sponsor if you got that seat, and be very specific? Joy, I would like to start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's about public safety. We have phenomenal transportation options in our district. I know that other districts are not as fortunate as us in our district, District 2, or it's really difficult to travel between east and west in our city. But one of the things, and we've been piecemealing a lot of the transportation stuff going on in our city, whether it's from Sound Transit to our, metro rapid rides to different pieces. But for me specifically, we would make it more affordable for a lot of the bus drivers and a lot of the service operators and maintenance workers to be able to afford to live in our city with workforce housing, so they can be able, we don't have those missing ghost buses, but we have a lot of opportunities for the people that are operating them.
Yeah, my family lives without a car, and I have spent over 5 years as a leader in transportation policy here in the state of Washington. And I've helped to lead a very significant and progressive investments in making transit better for the 30% of people in our state who can't or don't drive. One thing we need to be really clear about here, and what the city can do, is increase transit reliability. The Route 8 goes through our district, and it is one of the top 10 busiest routes in the city of Seattle, and it has the lowest reliability. That means that every time our taxpayer dollars are going into an hour of service that's getting stuck in traffic, we are taking people's time, we are driving people away from transit, and we are making it so that you can't count on that ride. So I want to see us be allocating more of our right-of-way to be increasing transit reliability so that we can meet our climate goals, we can meet our mobility goals, and we can address people's basic affordability.
If we want to spend a lot of money in these programs, though, first people need to use it. When you look at a lot of the buses, it's empty right now. Even light rail, it's not at capacity. How do you convince people to get out of their cars and use public transit in the first place right now?
So I'm on public transit every day, and I am never alone on public transit. Over 500,000 people ride public transit in our county every day. And right now, those people are experiencing a lack of reliability. They are having ghost bus not show up. They are experiencing a lack of rider dignity. We don't have safe and clean stations. We don't have basic bathrooms for people to be able to make transit a usable choice for so many of us. And we don't have the assurance that transit is going to get us where we need to go.
Joy?
Yeah, we have to make it safe for people to feel like they would love to ride transit. I know I have a mom who would love to ride transit, but she does not feel safe. There's a lot of people that would love to ride transit. They talk about it all the time, but they don't feel safe. And so if we can create a sense of safety on our buses, we've seen what happened at the Beacon Hill Light Rail Station. We've seen what happened over in West Seattle. People do not feel safe. And so we have to make it safe for people to be able to jump on transit, and especially our vulnerable communities.
So the good news here is you're 2/3 of the way through this. We're counting down very quickly. So you guys are doing a great job. We're going to tackle a couple of the hyper-local district questions that some of the attendees here. We had quite a few, some of them doubled on kind of what we were already asking. Hannah has the first one, followed by Caesar.
So this is from one District 3 voter, and that person says, I look at the surrounding streets around Puget Sound and I see their quality is much higher than ours. Is there something that can be done to go fix the streets and remove all of those potholes? Alex.
never have to have a competitive election again if you could figure that one out. I ride my bicycle around all the time, so I feel the jarringness of our unmaintained roads just as much as anybody. The city is going to have 7 months to pass a Move Seattle levy, which is a major investment in our transportation infrastructure. It's maintenance and operation, and that's going to be on your ballot in November of 2024. So your city council is going to have 7 months to figure out how we do a decade worth of investments in our right-of-way to make it safe, reliable, and well-maintained. That, of course, does include the ability to make sure that our roads and streets are, of course, safe for people, and that they are well maintained so that we can increase the basic mobility of people regardless of what mode you're in.
Yeah, some of the basic infrastructure of our city, as we have continued to grow, has been neglected. And so, you know, you're looking at crosswalks next to schools that need to be well lit. We're looking at other crosswalks that need to be repainted, the potholes that are going on in our city, and just the basic day-to-day infrastructure within our city, from the widening of our sidewalks to the lights. Look, I knew about our corner. I live on the corner of 23rd and John, and we saw accidents every single day, 1 day a month for the last five years. And I pointed a camera, and I was able to make that corner safer just by showing the amount of accidents that were happening, just basic infrastructure in our city. It took me 5 years with a camera, which it shouldn't have. But however, you know, that goes to show you about, as we have increased and grown as a city, we cannot forget our water, our sewer, our garbage, all the things that are the infrastructure in our city to be able to grow as well with our population growth.
The city of Seattle is well known for innovation in the areas of early learning, childcare, including after-school care. What is being done right, and what more is needed? Alex?
Yeah, we've created obviously 2 really exciting programs. We have our Families Education and Promise Levy that I discussed earlier. That does create investments for low-income families and direct financial assistance in finding affordable childcare. We also have created an amazing program, the Seattle Promise, which many students right here at Seattle College are able to benefit from, which provides guaranteed tuition for graduates from our Seattle public school system. So these are things that we are definitely doing well, but the cost of childcare has gotten totally out of control. And so we need to take a look at how we're making it easier to site childcare facilities, how we're subsidizing and investing so that working families aren't paying the equivalent of a second mortgage in childcare. And we need to close the gap between where the childcare is and where people need to go. This is back to kind of how do we have those walkable cities where your job, your home, your transit are all really well and easily connected.
Yeah, childcare is a public good that is funded by parents right now, working class families. And we have to start treating it like a public good, because if you don't have childcare, you cannot go to work. You don't have childcare, you cannot perform certain activities. Those kids are getting educated in these early learning environments. And even though the city council is not the school board, so they do not deal with curriculum. They do with all the infrastructure around, you know, schools and early learning childcare. And so one of the things that we have to do, I worked at an after-school program, and if a parent dropped their kid off at 7 a.m., we would come pick their kid up at 3 p.m. They would get fed. They would also get basketball training, and then they would have practice, and that parent would pick them up at 8 p.m. That is a form of childcare. We can have different activities and nonprofit programs that help with being able to give kids something to do after school, particularly. That is also a form of childcare.
We have one police question, specifically police accountability. So as a city council member, you will have the authority to weigh in on SPA contracts, which, as we know, as in the Seattle Police Union contracts. Would you change or add anything to an upcoming contract when it specifically comes to holding police officers accountable? And Joy, let's start with you.
Yeah, so one of the ways in which it's important as we are rebuilding our police department and we are recruiting new officers is that we also have a high lens of accountability and transparency literally at every level, especially a department where they are granted the access to take a life if needed. And so one of the ways in which in a new contract is to subpoena power for our city council. The second way is to ensure that they have a certain amount of hours that they are required to be able to spend in community, creating relationships with a lot of the communities that have been impacted by policing, which is important, and not just relying on people to show up, but they are required to be in there as well. And so all these measures, there's also a call in different communities where they're saying, hey, we also want a civilian oversight, ensuring that we can be able to ensure that there's accountability and transparency. There's so many different pathways, but those would be the two main ones.
Alex?
Yeah, we need to, of course, increase the ratios of our Civilian Oversight Board. Our Office of Police Accountability right now allows for quite a significant number of uniformed police officers to be sitting on those accountability boards. And that creates pressure to be able to really, not move forward the way that we want. So we need to be able to move that. We need to increase, of course, the subpoena power so that officers, the very few of them who are doing misconduct, can be held accountable to the highest level of professional standard and decorum that we taxpayers expect. We need to, in the contract, be clear about the scope of work. We've talked a lot about the police alternatives. That is going to require some contract changes, and so we need to be able to say, like, this scope of work is best met by alternative response, and that comes to bear in our contract, as well as some of the things that we do around overtime, right? We know that we spend $30 million in overtime every year. We need to make an adjustment there.
All right, we're going to try something a little bit different that they didn't have a chance for the last debate. It's called our lightning round. We're going to basically ask you a round of yes or no questions. You already know the drill. It's basically looks like this: thumbs down, no; thumbs up, yes. It's real simple. It's nice and visual. You have been given the paddles. We're just going to ask you a handful of these. I'm going to start right now. Seattle City Council recently voted to prosecute some drug crimes as gross misdemeanors. Would you have voted for that drug law, yes or no?
You are running for the seat that longtime councilmember Kshama Sawant is leaving. Do you believe your policies, for the most part, align with hers? Yes or no?
Is there a waffle?
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, gotta pick one. Where do you lean more towards?
Do you support defunding the police? Yes or no?
All right, would you support an NBA team to call Seattle home again, yes or no?
Would you favor a crackdown on habitual shoplifters? Yes or no?
Do you support turning office buildings into residences to reduce homelessness? Yes or no?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Do you support turning office buildings into residences to reduce homelessness?
All right, do you support rent control? Get some waffles there. I think that was the idea. Go ahead.
Do you think the King County Regional Homelessness Authority is doing an effective job in fighting homelessness? Yes or no?
All right, one last question.
Do you support an income tax?
All right, there. Perfect timing. Love it. And with that, our time is up. So we are now going to give our candidates 60 seconds each for a closing statement. And Joy, we're going to begin with you. No, I'm sorry, Joy, you went first, so we're going to begin with Alex this time. Sorry. You have 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'm Alex Hudson, and I am a progressive leader with a long track record of bringing people together to find solutions to our greatest problems that are already making people's lives better. I love this city and I love this district, which is why I've dedicated my life and my career to making it be a better place. And I know that a better future is possible if we come together with the effective coalition building and the experienced leadership to make it so that everyone has a safe, affordable place to live, that no one sleeps on our streets, that we are providing people with effective solutions based on progressive values. It is possible to have a Seattle that meets our needs, that is safe, that is thriving, where our children have opportunity and where our old people can rest.
And we are all able to be very deeply proud to call Seattle our home.
Go ahead.
Community, culture, commerce. That was the Seattle I know, and that's the one I grew up with. And as we are trying to figure out who we want to be in the identity and who for, we have to start getting real about public safety. We have to start to get real about our housing affordability. We have to start getting real about our response to homelessness. We have to ensure that our kids can play safely at the park, that we invest in their after-school program, that we are a city for working class families who built this city off their backs, from day-to-day operators to bus drivers to the artists that we used to have home here on Capitol Hill. What type of city do we want to be in the future? And that's what's on the line today for this important election for District 3. I hope tonight you have seen I have earned your vote and your trust to help represent you for Seattle City Council District 3. I'm Joy Hollingsworth. Thank you.
And with that, yes, we're on a quite quick timeline here because this is live right now, so I've got to hit a clock. With that, we do end our District 3 debate. You can both take a big, deep breath. You did a great job tonight. We hope everybody learned something from this, and we hope you will obviously get out and vote.
And if you're not registered yet or need to update your information, it's not too late. Just go to votewhat.gov for more information. Make sure your ballot is postmarked by Tuesday, November 8th, or drop it in the ballot drop box by 8 p.m. on Election Day.
And the Seattle City Club is also organizing debates for the races in District 4 and 5, so you can see the details there on your screen. And you can find more information always at seattlecityclub.org.
And for now, we say goodbye from South Seattle College. A big thank you to our audience, mostly, a little extra applause in there, but to our candidates. First time that either of them has done that. So a big, this is the time. You can applaud. And with that, thank you and good night.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenuradio.world.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
Generational wealth is incredibly difficult to accrue. My mom likes to joke that we come from a long line of people who are bad at money. She always talks about wanting to buy a house so that she has something to leave her kids. I got really sick when I was a kid, and all our money went towards that. I had to leave college because I couldn't afford my next year's tuition, medical bills, and life. It's all so difficult. And then you think about wanting to leave something behind for your kids. Well, how can you leave something behind for your kids when every day you're trying to make sure that your kids have joy and happiness and health and fulfillment today? Every day I'm really concerned about if I'll be able to keep living and making art in this city for myself.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and this is my real voice. Honest. You're hearing it on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Should have told her you were sorry.
God is Rainier Avenue Radio.world, your favorite community radio station. We're putting out all kind of inputs for you in your community. So come on and listen to us and tune us in. Get on our Facebook, Instagram, and all, as we're doing it right here for you in your community with Rainier Avenue Radio.world. And God is an inspirational gospel music. Also, we're doing a lot of different things in your community. We give out free food. We give out a lot of things in the community. We do a lot of shows. We do a lot of things on the sports part, and we want you to come on out and tune us in and come to the community, and we do a lot of things in your community. So make sure you go to our website, rainieravenuradio.world, and also go to the God Is website and look us up and see what we do in your community, something maybe you might like. So come on by and check us out from 11 to 2. Free food giveaway.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio.org. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe Bean, and we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to say.
For me, generational wealth is passed down knowledge from relatives or any family members, or even like any ancestral people that have come before you, that is, used to help you progress in the times that you're living in. So I think it is very updated. It's very current. It is existing in real time. So any type of knowledge or resources from people who are here living now, being able to provide that information and pass it down from generation to generation, how you maintain the wealth. That's what it means to me.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhoods Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Create your generational wealth for you and the future of your families. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to
You
say.
see lots of people who've gotten rich quickly and gotten poor just as quickly and left nothing to their families and or the community. That's a big chunk of the piece that needs to change. We need to see people making their investment in their families and in themselves and in the community. We want to build all three of those elements. We want to establish long-lasting family and community wealth, not just people who've gotten rich and squandered it. Those who have wealth will be opposed to our breaking the status quo. So this will be a struggle. All those folks are used to how things have been for hundreds of years, and that's the piece that needs to change. And they need to be able to stand by.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhoods Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth?
Women Empowerment Talk Radio, your roadmap to business success. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, providing resources and sharing motivational experiences from the everyday entrepreneur. Tune in Women Empowerment Talk Radio every Sunday, 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Did you know that there's an updated COVID-19 booster that protects you even more than the original vaccines? Even if you got the first vaccinations, now it's time to get this new updated booster shot. It's especially important for adults 50 and over and people with a compromised immune system. Even though you may not hear about people catching COVID as often, each week in King County, some people even end up in the hospital because of it. So check with your loved ones and make sure they've gotten an updated booster. For more information on where to get a COVID vaccine, including free vaccination resources, visit kingcounty.gov/vaccines. kingcounty.gov/vaccines.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to
You
say.
see lots of people who've gotten rich quickly and gotten poor just as quickly and left nothing to their families and or the community. That's a big chunk of the piece that needs to change. We need to see people making their investment in their families and in themselves and in the community. We want to build all three of those elements. We want to establish long-lasting family and community wealth, not just people who've gotten rich and squandered it. Those who have wealth will be opposed to our breaking the status quo. So this will be a struggle. All those folks are used to how things have been for hundreds of years, and that's the piece that needs to change. And they need to be able to stand by.
This campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhood's Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
This is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. Join me every week to get information on activities and issues that impact the lives of older adults and their families. That's Seniors Matter every week on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is our post-debate show for District Number 3 right here at the Broadway Performance Hall. Joining me is candidate Joy Hollingsworth. Joy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate you.
Okay, Benton.
Benton, my bad. I'm sorry.
Benton, that's
My-
okay. Benson, Bennett, they get it confused.
Benton, I'm so sorry. My apologies.
It is Benton. Well, let's start by this, Joy. How did you feel about this evening?
Yeah, I felt good. You know, we had a great discussion. This is a lot of the topics that we've been talking about the last 9 months. And so it was good for us to be able to be on TV, to connect with voters. And I feel pretty solid that we, was able to get our message across.
It is difficult to get your message across in 60 seconds, no matter who's asking the questions or what the questions is. Or what do you think that you got across to those who are out there listening, who are going to be voting? What was successful for you in all of the things that were talked about this evening that you felt hit home with the audience, or at the very least, you let them know, look, this is where I stand on this particular issue?
Yeah, our sense of urgency that we need to have on public safety. Number one, our response to homelessness. And then we're dealing with an affordability crisis in our city where people cannot afford to live here. They cannot afford to eat here, our kids are suffering, there's not a lot of city council candidates, if not, I'm the only one talking about our youth and that being one of our priorities. Like, we are in a crisis right now, and so we have to act like it.
What would you say to anyone who says, you know what, we have a lot of teens out there committing violent crimes and they don't need to be coddled? If you get your head cracked by one of them, you don't think they need to be coddled. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what would you say to those folks out there who are the victims of teen crime now, where teens are carrying guns
Yep.
and committing violent crimes?
Yeah, look, the shooting that happened at the Safeway parking lot in Rainier Beach, that was high school, middle school kids, right? Like, so we know, number one, we have a problem, but we also have to have accountability for our youth. And so there is some, enforcement that happens to do with our criminal justice system, where they're getting involved in certain activities they shouldn't be in. So there has to be accountability in that. And then let's try to get the youth that are going in that direction before they're committing those crimes to ensure that they're, on a different pathway.
Again, my guest is Joy Hollingsworth, candidate for District 3. Just finished a debate. What would you say to the audience right now, based on the debate that we just heard, are the differences between yourself and your opponent that stand out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is our approach to public safety. I'm trying to amplify voices of communities that want a relationship, a positive relationship with our police department, right? They want good police, they want a positive relationship, they also want police accountability, and they want transparency. And so that's the voices I'm approaching. The second piece is I've had 39 years of growing up in this district. So I understand the legacy, the historical perspective, what we did, how we created a lot of mistakes, the communities that have fallen through those gaps, and as we're growing, how for us not to make those mistakes so those communities do not fall through the gaps. That's one of the major differences.
We talk about the need for affordable housing. You talked about the need for affordable housing. A lot of folks who are in this community are gone. There has been discussions about ways to change that, make that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think developers are just going to give property back to people? I mean, you folks are asking for solutions. Everyone's saying
Yeah.
affordable housing. These are very nuanced things.
Yeah.
How do you resolve property that's been sold away from families? We've heard about different types of programs and plans, but I just want to know how that's going to work. How do you expect people to come back to this community and developers cooperate and make affordable housing? Is that realistic?
Okay, it's a tough thing. So we've seen some blueprints happen, Liberty Bank and Africatown, but where it hits for me is the income inequality gap in our city. So like the average household income for a Black family of 4 is $48,000. That's been like that for 10 years. We equate
What was that number again?
$48,000 is
'cause
the
I've heard
average
different
household income for a family of 4. It's been
Okay.
like that for 10 years. Half of the Black families in our city of Seattle have a 0% net worth. $25,000 is the average net worth for a Black family in Seattle. And so we've seen that people have been able to create that generational wealth through properties, through homes, home ownership, right? Not renting, but home ownership. And if we can be able to use the bill that Representative Taylor just passed, that she got passed with Frank Chop, House Bill 1474, that gives down payment assistance to folks to be able to partner with HomeSite, their Sam Smith program, where we can either have land trusts, we can people can be able to buy a house, not necessarily the central district, might be more of an affordable place in Seattle, to create that generational wealth. I think that's what the city needs to partner with, specifically with our state, to create the intentional programming for that. Not just you hear about it on some website. Partner with Black legacy homeowners, with Shikundi, partner with Urban League, partner with Africatown, partner with these programs that know their target demographic for that to happen.
Okay. and I'm just asking the questions.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point at you,
No, it's
Mr.
cool.
Benton. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about it. My bad.
It is cool. But at the end of the day, um, the reason why I'm asking about that affordable house issue is because is it too late for the Central District? We keep bringing this up,
Yeah.
and there are a couple of landmark places that are there, but it's not affordable. And if the plan is to get developers to be part of, I just don't see developers. They're in it for the money.
Of course, and a lot of them are out of state. But I will say this, okay? One of the pathways into the CD for our Black entrepreneurs is through business, right? Like there are so many affluent communities that are in the Central District right now that can spend their money at these businesses that have come back. I think that's going to be a great pathway for us to create some type of this economic, development and mobility for our community.
Do you consider yourself, if you had to say one of these terms, conservative, moderate, centrist, progressive, which one would you say most closely applies?
Only
you
in
in
Seattle,
politics?
a Black female queer woman whose family owns a cannabis farm would be considered a centrist. Only in Seattle. Isn't that wild?
My guest, again, Joy, I personally, I appreciated the way that you answered the questions. At the end of the day, it's District 3 that has the vote. If there's anything that you'd like to say to those folks who are listening right now, who are unsure about whether they should vote for you, and I'm also talking about new folks into District 3. Because the district has changed. There's been a redistricting. And again, there's more than one community in District 3. So it's a big question to try to answer in a short amount of time. What I'm trying to do here is make sure that folks who are new to this district know that you have their thoughts on their mind, if you do, or if there are issues and concerns among people who you think, you know what, these needs to rise to the top. And there are people who feel like, why can't our issues rise to the top? So I don't know how you're going to answer that, but it's
So,
yours.
District 3, thank you, Mr. Benton. District 3, I will be the candidate that will be transparent, that will be accessible, like Sam Smith. You probably don't, maybe many of you might not know who that is, but he used to answer his own phone. He was our first Black city council person in Seattle, and someone who will also work together, but also amplify your issues, right? Whether it's a pothole, whether you care about environmental justice issues, whether you care about affordable housing, our response to homelessness, whatever issue you have, it's my job to be the bridge to connect you to the 45 city departments and the 15,000 employees that work in our city of Seattle. That's my job, and I'd be honored to earn your vote and your support.
Joy, thank you for joining me here.
Thank you, Mr.
For this post-debate discussion and let me get in your mix a little bit.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah, hey, I watch your show. I think it's phenomenal what you're doing, bringing transparent access to these elections to a demographic who might not have that opportunity. I think it's excellent. So thank you.
Well, I make no bones about it. Whatever district we're in, there are Black people.
Of course. We everywhere.
Native folks,
Yep.
immigrant folks.
Yep.
I'll just use this term. I don't like it, but people seem to understand it. BIPOC, marginalized communities, and our voices are less likely to be heard in those particular types of majorities. So I'm not here to change the discussion. I'm just here to be inclusive in the discussion, unapologetically. But that doesn't mean that there aren't folks out there whose votes aren't important and their issues and concerns are, of course, relevant to the situation as well. And you get to make the choice who you would like to. Any last things you want to say before you get out of this seat right now to anybody?
That's it. You can go to our website, joyforseattle.com, joyforseattle.com, or follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Joy for Seattle. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, Joy.
Peace.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get Alex over here. And Cesar, I know you were first, but let's get Alex over here. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Put the headphones on. So, Alex Hudson, correct?
That's me.
And well, first of all, thank you for running for office.
Appreciate that.
That's a big deal. How did you feel about how things went this evening? I mean, I know it's still fresh. But how did you feel about how things went this evening overall?
I thought it went great. Yeah, I really enjoyed the vast array of questions. It's always a delight to be able to, talk about these hard issues. I appreciated the follow up, and I thought it was very good moderating, and that we had a good conversation.
Some of these issues, they're the same all over the city.
Mhm.
I know whenever we sit down to do this, there's a few things that we're going to talk about: homelessness, crime, drugs. Those are things that we're going to talk about, and maybe at this point they're intrinsically intermingled. I don't know, but each district also has things that are unique to that district. Do you live in District 3?
Of course, yeah. I've lived on First Hill for almost 15 years now, and I was born here in King County, so I've, been here my whole life.
What are some of the things that you felt that you addressed this evening that directly impact? And I'm not saying all those other things don't, but hyperlocal, if you will, that directly address some of the issues and concerns of your District 3 constituents.
Yeah, I think all of the issues that we talked about, right? District 3 has a huge percentage of people who live here who are renters, who are nervous about the housing affordability crisis and what it means for their ability to stay in the communities that they want to stay in, and what it means for just the huge amounts of like poverty and suffering that people are going through because our economy is so unfair here in the city. So I think everything, really affects us. But one thing I was really glad we had an opportunity to talk about, of course, is public transit. As you mentioned, there's issues that we talk about all the time, of course, homelessness, public safety, drugs and mental health. But public transit is something that, as I mentioned, over 500,000 people ride every day, including right here in our dense walkable neighborhood. So this is the kind of thing that really matters to people's day to day. Am I going to be able to get to work on time today? Right? That's pretty basic stuff.
Now, you said something, equitable development. What is equitable development? What is that? Are you trying to achieve that, or what is equitable development? How does that fit into this conversation?
Yeah, the city has a program. It's called the Equitable Development Initiative. And we invest tens of millions of dollars in support for community-based organizations that are representing a variety of Black, Indigenous, people of color organizations to support things like community centers and other kind of neighborhood or just like community-based groups. And so this is a way that we can preserve not just housing, but the community spaces that allow for communities to actually thrive.
Make that make sense to me in a way that it impacts and affects equitable development. Seems like one of those $30,000 terms that when it hits the ground doesn't really mean anything. Now, you said community centers, that maybe that's equitable development to an individual might be, I want a home. That is equitable development to me. Anything else is a Band-Aid. And so I'm not just getting in your mix or in your Kool-Aid. I'm just trying to really get explanations that make sense to some of the issues that we have going out here, because this community has changed drastically. Now, do you constantly live in the past, or do you accept the fact that this community has changed and it's going to be different, and you're not going to go back to what it was? Or are you trying to get it to get back to what it was?
Yeah. So when I was speaking about equitable development, I was specifically speaking about the Equitable Development Initiative, which is that that supporting organization. But yeah, the idea that we're talking about is housing justice, right? Is that everyone should be able to find a place to live where they can be with their communities, where they can raise their family, a neighborhood and a community and a housing of your choice. And so because, as I mentioned, because we have protected wealthy white neighborhoods for so long in the city of Seattle, that has contributed to the gentrification and displacement that is occurred shamefully in our city. And so I really think it is extremely important that we understand that there are generations of inequity, I mean, targeted harm that needs to be addressed through our future policies that make it so that everybody can live where they want.
Okay. I'm just still equitable development. I don't see how that's going to happen. But if if it's something that you're espousing, what about and I asked the same question of candidate Hollingsworth, youth and crime. Um, if you're the person getting your car ran into and a gun put in your face, you're probably wanting something to be done about that. Other than community policing, you mentioned, hey, what appeared to me, which is there's certainly a place for everything, to be more on the side of um, um, programs to assist middle school youth, to assist high school youth. And I'm not saying that there's not a vacuum, not there. And we just finished the damn pandemic. So we don't know all of the things that are leading, but we do know there is a rise in violent crimes committed by youth. And at the debate that we did in District 2, a young woman said she awoke to a burglar at her house at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think she was looking for programs at that point. She was looking for police response.
That's right. Yeah. If you were the victim of a violent crime, the police should show up. That is what I think the police are for, and what they should do is to show up and try to address violent and property-based crimes, and then close those cases so that people can get, closure and justice.
Now, maybe I'm not speaking to the majority when I ask this question of you, but what can you do to assure folks in District 3 that you will do your due diligence against violent crime and youth who commit crime so that they don't end up back on the streets terrifying folks who they committed crimes against in a revolving door situation? Or maybe you think there's another answer to this.
Yeah, I think that in life and with things that are as complicated as why children commit violent crimes, there's a variety of things that we have to do. Of course, if you are the victim of a crime, as I said, you deserve a police officer to show up and do something about it right away. And the person who commits a violent crime needs some accountability about their behavior change. But we also know, like I said, the American Pediatrics Association has been talking about the mental health crisis that's ravaging our kids, and we have no support for them right now. If your child needs a psychiatrist, it is a 6-month wait just to go and see someone to talk about how your kid can get on a pathway to a life worth living and stability and opportunity. And so we have just completely gutted out all of the systems that help support our kids. And so, of course, that's having bad outcomes. They're children, and they're not fully developed yet. And so we need to be surrounding our kids with like real opportunities, mental and behavioral health, counselors in the schools, mentorship opportunities, summer and after school jobs programs, a real track to vocational college so that kids can see an actual brighter future. Like I said, I'm the legal guardian to a young person who's a ninth grader here at Garfield High School. And so I very much see and experience the way in which our kids frankly, they have every right to feel a little hopeless right now.
Mm-hmm. Talk to kids who don't feel safe going to school, experiencing lockdowns.
Yes.
And so yeah, I'm going to talk about a different stuff, just asking some questions.
Yeah.
And again, for voices that don't get heard for whatever reason because it's not cool. But I guarantee you, people who've been victims of violent crimes want to know that those who commit violent crimes are going to be punished.
Of course.
Um, my guest again is Alex Hudson, running for Seattle City Council position number 3. How has the redistricting changed your perception of District 3? You lost, the Chinatown International District and the Terrace. Did that change at all? And you got in some new territory.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the new District 3? And did it change very much at all?
Yeah, as a total nerd about this stuff, I really appreciate this question. I actually think that the changes that we made were really pro-democratic, especially for Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities, because so many of folks from those communities live in Yester Terrace, and being able to have a united political kind of power in District 2 is a way to help those communities um, have a stronger voice in City Hall. So I think that is a very pro-democratic move and something that we should be happy about.
Mm-hmm. And for District 3,
yeah,
what is the benefit of the redistricting, or is there a benefit, or how does that work in again, a group of people collectively saying this is what we want for our community? Because it's going to be different without the Chinese National District in there.
Yeah, of course. I've appreciated that Eastlake is a new part of the district. One thing that's wonderful, I've knocked over 11,000 doors, and we've spent quite a bit of time in Eastlake. And Eastlake is actually quite a dense neighborhood that's experiencing a lot of growth in a similar way to many of the other places in District 3. And so I think that District 3, especially residents in Eastlake, will be able to have a representative who kind of understands that sort of flourishing and kind of urban village area, and how to have holistic growth that supports it as a burgeoning neighborhood business district, just like some of the other great places here.
Just a couple more questions. What did you see this evening as the things that separated you from Joy Hollingsworth as the candidate for District 3?
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for anybody who is running for public office, and I feel very lucky to have an opponent as formidable as candidate Hollingsworth. I think there's some really clear differences in our sort of overall thinking around the solutions to our public safety crisis, right? So I've been a really staunch supporter of addiction health hubs and safe consumption sites, getting people a place to come inside right now so that we can get drugs off of our sidewalk, we can save people's lives, and we can get people connected to services. I've been really clear that I think that it is important that we have those diversion both processes in place, but also something to divert people to, if we're going to be able to have success in our public drug use crisis and the overdose crisis that's stealing people that we love from our communities. I think that I've spent a lot of time more thinking about housing and how we build more of it and how we make it cheaper and faster, but how we do so in a way that is like healthy and graceful growth in our district. And I think that I have we didn't have a chance to talk too much about it up there, but ideas around progressive revenue and how we can start getting the ultra wealthy in our city to be paying their fair share, so that us working people can be have less of a burden and let our paychecks go further.
That's a fight.
Yeah.
That's not. Well, okay. I want to give you the opportunity. Speaking of money, and this isn't a question, but I don't know how anyone is going to solve this homelessness issue when people say we need more of this and more of that. And the figure that I keep seeing is billions of dollars, but people keep saying, well, we need more shelters, we need more, billions of dollars. And I don't know. So it's not necessarily a question, but it keeps getting talked about. I do want to get, if you want to address that, you can. But I do.
I would just say it's a big problem.
Mhm.
It's a really big problem. And it is not just as easy as housing. It's about support. It's about treatment. It's about connection. It's about trauma. Like it is a very big problem that we have allowed to get really bad. And the responsibility for that sits firmly at our government. And I oftentimes think about, what's the cost if we don't?
Oh,
Right?
oh, okay.
What is the cost to us spiritually? What is the cost to us financially? What is the cost to us in our civic pride if we
Mhm.
say we can't solve this issue?
All right. I want to give you the opportunity to talk to folks in your district right now. If there's anything that you'd like to say to them, so that they can get to know you better, know your platform better, whatever it is, the floor is yours. Talk to your voters.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so wonderful getting the chance to get to meet so many folks. And, I come from the neighborhood work. And so being able to connect with people who love the place that they are, who want to be in the place that they are, who are proud to be Seattleites, but see the problems that we have and want effective solutions is the reason that I'm running. I believe in Seattle, and I want to be able to look my kid and every community member in the face and say that I tried very hard to work on the solutions that are going to make our lives better now and in the future. And it's just been an absolute delight to go on this journey. Um, and I hope I can earn your support and your vote.
Well, Alex, thank you for running for office.
Thank you.
Good luck to you as well.
Thank you.
And there you have it, folks. We're gonna do one more. Caesar, are you gonna join me? Is that Caesar, right? Who was the moderator? So I didn't ask you about the moderators, and I did ask in the last one what you thought of the moderators. But I'm not gonna do that to you if you thought because if they don't ask the questions that allow you to extrapolate or give the answers that you want, makes it a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
But
Best practice is to respond to the questions that you're asked.
yeah,
And there's so many things
yeah,
that.
this is a tough gig. Good luck. Come on
Thank
over
you.
here, Caesar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, how you doing, sir? Converge Media in the house. Our beloved
Thank
partner,
you.
Converge. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Great to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Good job.
Thank you.
What was it like for you to be up there knowing that you're one of the voices that are asking the questions of an entire community?
It was interesting. It's my first time doing a debate, being a moderator. Also, I don't do live stuff very often, so that's a little unnerving for me. But we had a great amount of preparation with the two other moderators, and ahead of time today, and then we had meetings and things like that. Discuss the issues, what's more important, what's most important to District 3 voters, and Seattle in general.
I don't have your information. Tell me your last name, please.
Canizales.
Canizales.
Yes. So
thank you, sir.
I'm Hispanic. Usually I just tell people to call me Caesar and then Canizales.
Okay.
And that makes it very easy. There's no people spend 5 minutes trying to pronounce my name, and I just said, just call me Caesar.
Canizales is pretty. Oh well. Okay. Do you live in District 3?
I do not.
You do not. None of the moderators live in District 3. I found that interesting. Not that I don't think journalism, can overcome that or even maybe do a better job than someone who lives in the community because they come in a different place. I just feel like somebody from the community should be able to ask their questions. But it sounds like y'all did some due diligence in getting information.
We did have some questions from the audience, from District 3 voters.
How'd that happen? How'd that work out?
We asked for questions, and we got a few of them. A lot of them were repeated questions, so we condensed them into just I think we had two or three of those. I myself spend a lot of time, a lot of my coverage is in District 3 and South Seattle, to be honest, in South King County. But a lot of the stuff that I do for Converge is District 3.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where are you from? How did you are you from Seattle?
I am not from Seattle. I was born in El Salvador.
Okay.
I've been living in the U.S. for probably 40 years now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you end up in Seattle?
My wife was offered a job at a large company in the area.
Okay. What do you think about Seattle?
I love Seattle. I've been living here for I think it's about 6 years now.
Okay. Yeah, I just got back from Los Angeles. I love the fact that we have seasons, you know, in Seattle. What got you into politics, and why have you positioned yourself, however that is, to where you can kind of influence people, you know what I mean, about decisions that they make in an area that's critical to our existence?
I spent about 30 years covering mostly national politics for two networks, two national networks,
Yeah.
mostly in Washington, D.C., but I also in Dallas. I also did a little stint in London and the United Kingdom. So most of my life, I dealt with national and international politics and policies and things like that. Over the past, I don't know, I would say maybe 8 years, I left the news 8 years ago to go into PR, and I worked for a community college in Dallas,
Of what?
doing communications and doing stories and just really finding out about the struggles that people go through, and because community colleges, they largely serve uh, lower income, in generally speaking, lower income communities. So I did a lot of coverage on that. Um, I was doing news stories, but working for the community college, which was an interesting, just telling people, hey, that if you are working a minimum wage job, you can go and do this program, and you can expect to make this much. Let's say you want to be an electrician, or you want to go into computer networking or things like that. And I had people, in the community in Dallas calling me, hey, I just read your story. Because we used to send those stories out to newspapers, local newspapers and radio stations, and they would take those stories, and then they would either republish those stories, and they would do their own stories about them, about those things that I had written about. So I got a sense of getting more involved with community and people in the community. So when we moved to my wife moved and I moved to Seattle, I started doing a lot of that. I worked for the United Way of King County for a while in their communications department. In fact, I saw you at the community barbecue, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, with Doug Baldwin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that was in August, actually.
That
Almost
was
2
that was in
months.
August.
Time
flies.
flies. Yeah. So I do some work for them as a freelancer, doing some video work for them, and that also got me. And I got a lot more knowledgeable about homelessness, affordability, and things like that, and how drug substance use, affects all those things and public safety. But for the last year and a half, I've been working with Converge Media, like I said, doing a lot of District 3 coverage, South Seattle, South King County. I go down to Renton. I've been doing some continuing coverage about racial injustices when it came to eminent domain for a family down there from the 60s. And that's been a developing story for the past, several years. But, it's the Seattle Times did a story about it. We did a story about it, and we continue to do a story about racial injustices that occurred in Renton.
All right. Well, this is the part, Cesar. It's not personal, where I have to stir your Kool-Aid a little bit. Okay, you were up there moderating. Was there a candidate that stood out to you as being more effective and more impactful tonight, based off of the questions that you asked?
I think they were both really well informed. Some of the questions, I think some of the answers were a little unclear, and sometimes we just don't have enough time to ask the follow-up questions. You did notice that both a big change from 3 years ago. Like both of them said, defund the police. No, You know,
Yeah.
and 3 years ago, you would have asked probably the entire council. They would have said yes,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So
they ain't run. They're not running again.
yeah, and you know, I heard you ask the candidates about that. You know, if a teenager comes to your car and puts a gun in your face,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? And it's like at that point, you don't want a mental health program. You want, you know, the police to take them away or do something to protect you. So, you know, some of those questions, there were some slight differences. If I had, I don't like to rate, but
I know, but this is
and you know, it's. I have to, full disclosure. I did a story when Joy Hollingsworth launched her campaign, so I did a story about that when she launched. So I already had a little bit of background on her. So I didn't know Alex Hudson as much. You know, and it's a difficult question.
Just say it, man. Just say it.
You know, it's there are some differences, especially when it comes to public safety, that I think Joy Hollingsworth came a little stronger, based on what I've seen and what I've heard from the youth down in South Seattle, Rainier Beach High School, for example. You know, I did a couple of stories about policing and public safety, and they had a couple of town halls. And you know, one of the quotes that I remember the most is, you know, when from one of these kids, teenagers, you know, young people, was when talking to the police, when you come into our communities, we don't know if we have fear in our hearts because we don't know if you're here for us or against us. You know, that's a young person saying that, and it's I always think about that because there are also some other young people who say no, we should just get rid of the police, you know, altogether. And I was interested to hear that Joy Hollingsworth was very emphatic in her support for Mayor Harrell's and the police department's attempt to increase police by to 1,400 people, officers. I'm not sure Alex Hudson was as strong in that, and so that was one of my impressions. When it came to affordable housing, I think both of them had really good answers, but you know, there's always the question, where's the money going to come from? And I think there's always, we need to, you know, we have the money. If we don't have the money, we're going to have a budget deficit in a couple of years.
Yeah, we have the money to build housing, is what Joy said. And then afterwards I wrote, huh?
Yeah. So
you know, they say this, and I'm not disparaging, but anyway.
Yeah, it's, you know, I think that was not quite the right answer. So, but I think both candidates came out sort of in that we just need more affordable housing and we need to build it fast. I think politicians have been talking about decreasing regulation and speeding up the permitting process and all that, but the question of the money still not answered.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that kind of bugs me, which is kind of why I bring it up. Is whatever the idea you come up with, where's the money coming from? Let's talk about Converge Media for a second here as we close down. Our partner in this, Converge, we love what they do. How you got engaged with Converge and what that is like to work with Converge as an independent media organization. They do lots of different things, though, as well.
I got started with them about a year and a half ago. I had worked with Omari Salisbury in a limited fashion because I used to work at Seattle Children's as well. So we collaborated on something. He interviewed somebody at the Odessa Brown Children's Clinic in the Central District. So we worked a little bit on that. So I contacted him and I said, hey, I am available to produce and report. And he answered me probably like the same day or the day after, because, you know, I think he said he needed somebody with my background as a producer / reporter. You know, most of my life I was a field producer and producing stories, but it wasn't until I got to Converge that I started actually doing stuff on camera. So I don't do a whole lot on camera, except now that I'm Converge has a partnership with Fox 13, and they have the Bessa Gordon show. You should be watching that show Saturday nights at 10:30, and it also airs on Fox 13 Plus on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., I believe.
All right.
So those are more featurey stories, very very youth oriented, light stories. But I like going, like I said, I like going into the community and talking to young people about what they're doing and things like that. I just last week I did a story about the preschool program, the early learning program in Seattle, and just being among those kids is pretty nice. Talking to Dr. Dwayne Chappelle about the preschool program and having him explain how families can get into it, because those are important things. I think we have something, we are trying to work on something on the Seattle Promise, for college students, but that's still to come.
What is the role with your background? Tell me where you see, or what you see, as the importance of ethnic media in all of this media journalism stuff that we've got going on, or is it important? The role that ethnic media.
I think it's incredibly important to have a voice. So to have somebody out there who's telling the stories of, the story I was talking about in Renton, for example. The family contacted us and they said, listen, this is what happened in the 60s. And, they didn't do eminent domain. They threatened eminent domain. It's a kind of a long story, but, they also contacted the Renton Reporter, the newspaper. They did a story on it as well. But those are the only two stories that have been done. And then Seattle Times finally came out and started talking about that story as well. You need to give people a voice. I think, it's important for, I'm not black, but I'm brown. I'm a brown person, Hispanic. It's, I can't speak for black people, but I can go and listen to the community. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the Elizabeth Thomas grand opening of a new affordable housing building down in South Seattle, and talked to the community there, and talk to the person who was in charge of that. Telling the people telling me, it's like, oh yeah, we used to live in the Central District. We've been pushed out. That's why one of my question was, what do you tell people? What do you do about people being pushed out of the Central District? They can't afford to live here. What do you do about that? And what that I've talked to people about that in the Central District, South Seattle. I've worked with El Centro de la Raza to find out about their affordable housing projects that they have coming up. They have one in Columbia City that they started building just back in the summer. They're going to have another one in Federal Way. They already have one in Beacon Hill. So, community-based organizations are going to be a key part in affordable housing, for example. But people won't find out about that unless you give them a voice.
Yeah. Well, ethnic media is not just black media.
Yes.
There's a lot of different, and black media is not just black media. We're just black, but we do media. So,
black media matters.
Anything that you want to say, Cesar, to the audience listening right now? Again, you just finished monitoring debate District 3, sharing your thoughts to these members of District 3 who are looking, watching, and you were right there. You're on stage. You're getting your questions. You're asking the questions. You're getting your questions answered. Hopefully, if you feel that happened tonight, you can say that. But anything that you want to say about what took place on that stage tonight, for those who are out there who are either trying to make a decision or didn't even know who the hell was running for office.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think both candidates are really well informed. I think some of the answers they could have been, there could have been a little more clear, but they're both qualified. And whomever you support, the most important thing is to register to vote and go out and vote. If you support Joy Hollingsworth, go vote for Joy Hollingsworth. If you support Alex Hudson, support her, go vote. The most important thing is to go out and vote. Register if you're not registered, and make sure your information is updated. That's the most important thing. I think they're They're both qualified in my opinion, but you know.
Well, I appreciate your
Thank you.
openness
Thank you so much.
in answering my questions, and great job up there.
Thank you.
And I look to continue to see your work with Converge Media.
Thank you.
Great outlet. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, Tony.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. Post-debate, District 3. We've got District 4 coming up on the 13th, which is Friday. That will be at the University of Washington Hub Conference Center room, whatever it is. We'll be there again with the post-debate show and a pre-debate show, and then the actual debate will be broadcasted live as well. That's it. That's all the time that I have. That's going to do it for the kid. It's me, Tony B, saying, remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you're probably right. I'm out. Peace.